4, 3, 2, 1. Go, Josh, go.
Thank you. Welcome to episode 98 of Plat Chat.
97.
Presented. Wait, sorry, what? 97?
97?
Oh, shit. 97. Presented by T-Mobile. Listen, I don't know what number it is, but I do know this for a fact. It's presented by T-Mobile, as it always is, and as it always should be. We're joined by a smorgasbord of people here. We've got our classic Bren replacement, Avast, and now also AVRL as well, who is a wonderful Matt replacement. I mean, that can be permanent. I'm good with that.
I think that should be a permanent replacement.
I'm glad that we've got like the third personality in the Overwatch scene whose name starts with AV to get on the show. So I mean, I don't know that you have an Avala yet, but it's me, Avast, and Avala, the three people whose name starts with AV. So there it is.
Yeah, that would be too powerful to have you all together in a room. I think. Surely there's got to be a fourth, isn't there? Like
I don't know. Is there? I can't think of
Who
one.
are we missing?
There's none. There's none. There isn't. Unless we were to get
it's an exclusive club.
There's no player
unless we were to
or
get
anything.
like Avril Lavigne or something. There's
Avril
no other.
Lavigne. Yeah,
There's
we'll
no
get
other
Avril,
AVs.
Avast, Avala, and
talk about
Avril
Morello like
Lavigne.
that.
And we'll discuss Overwatch 2. And yeah, that sounds like
I
a
think
great
that'd be a draw.
show.
I think that'd be a really good draw.
Yeah, actually, by the way, just quickly with me being here, if you listen really carefully, you'll be able to hear the sounds of thousands of people being silenced by the fact that you finally got someone that watches APAC on the show now. So,
Exactly.
well done. We got that going for us now.
I will tell you,
Into
though.
the rumors now, are we?
We're not gonna talk
God.
about APAC the entire show. We're just gonna force Avril to talk about North America the whole
we're
time.
actually here to just talk about Love Island, Avril, because you're replacing Matt. So like,
Now
we're
you
actually
say
gonna talk
that.
about
You say
Wait,
that.
this isn't a Pokemon. We're not here to talk about Pokemon Unite. What's going on?
Well,
Is
I
this
mean,
an Overwatch episode?
if any of you have played Pokemon Unite, then maybe we'll start a Pokemon Unite Plat Chat podcast. But as far as I can tell, it's a bit of pay to win, isn't it? I mean, no one's played it anyway. We were talking about this before the show. Avast has not played Pokemon Unite because he was a Yu-Gi-Oh fan, so he just preferred that kind of the trading card game instead. You're just nodding along.
I'm first trying to figure out how. They're not necessarily mutually exclusive. You could like Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon.
No, not true.
But like, I don't. I just don't like Pokemon. I don't, because I feel like I'm telling sheeple to wake up. Sheeple, it's time to wake up. You keep buying Pokemon stuff year after year. It's the same thing over and over and over again. You need to exit the simulation. Okay, you need Neo to rescue you from the Matrix.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
I'm so surprised by this.
What should people start liking if they don't like Pokemon anymore? I've asked.
Yeah. What they're gonna fill their hours
they
with.
should first of all. I mean, Yu-Gi-Oh is obviously an option. Without
Dude,
Pokemon,
all right, dude. We need a replacement for Avast.
It's
Come on.
so
dude.
surprising. I don't get it, because Pokemon seems like the easiest layup for like brand and clout that I've could ever had. Like just referring to players as Pokemon and stuff, but instead he just
He's discarded it completely.
I don't take the easy layups.
It's a cultural touchstone.
I don't take that. I don't do.
Anyway,
they take the easy way out.
Avast, you said earlier that we're only going to be talking about Love Island. Matt, despite not being here, has given the time to put a research document together on the updates in the life of Love Island Avast, Jeremy. So here we go. First of all, he doesn't understand the scheduling, so we just left that all in there. and then secondly, he said, "Here's an update on Love Island Avast, whose name is Jeremy." I mean, Avril, I know you tune into the show avidly, but there's a person on Love Island who looks exactly like the Chad version of
A
Avast.
muscular Avast. Yeah.
Okay,
yeah,
so
pretty much.
Jeremy apparently broke things off with Trina to pursue Amy.
Matt can't spell. Look at this. Look at these sentences. There's no spelling in here.
Well, no, I think that's how she spells Amy, unless you mean pursue.
No, pursue. Look at pursue.
Yeah.
Like that, and he spelled pursue. Actually, I think he spelled it right the second time, or did he?
Okay.
Is that how you spell pursue?
Jeremy,
No, there's a U.
There's a
It's supposed
U.
to be you are.
It's
It's
a
you
U.
are.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it's
you
you
are.
are. He spelled it wrong twice. Okay.
Jeremy and Amy got together, but shortly after, Florita came in, decided they were just friends, and Jeremy pursued Florita. Florida. At recoupling, Florita selected Jeremy, but the next episode, America voted them a bottom 4 couple.
Tough.
I remember doing that. Everyone came together in America. There was a national alert.
Amber Alert. Your phones are vibrating like. Zzz, zzz.
When you said there was a typo, I thought it meant it was Florida. I was like,
No,
oh,
it's
Matt spelled
pursue.
Florida wrong.
I mean,
I was like, yeah, Florida and Jeremy are dating. The whole state of Florida and Jeremy, they're in a relationship. And I thought that was what was going on.
Yeah. The boys. I don't know what that means. I don't understand the format of the show.
So the show is split like down. Like,
Have you started watching it? Have you started watching it now that you're on it?
I haven't started watching it. It's literally such a basic dynamic of dating shows where you split the women and the men, and like they kind of like interact separately.
Okay. So the boys saved Olivia and the girls saved Jeremy, but now he has no couple, and he's sad that Florita is gone. Oh. What a tragedy. That's got a whole character arc over the course of just 1 week. All of that happened to him in 1 week. That's what happened to you in 1 week. Have you been in 3 different relationships and had your heart broken? Have you had the whole of America rally behind you? Have you been saved by a pack of girls? Has your week been interesting?
I wish. I mean, my week has been good. It's been fun, but it's I've not had America come together to vote me a bottom for the member of a couple. No, we haven't used the national emergency alert system that we use for nukes to be like, guys, we have to vote like right now. We haven't used that yet. So sadly, no.
Oh God, I love that. Also, the scheduling. You might have noticed there was some scheduling stuff on there. I think that was a decent time to. Oh wait, no, we can't plug the show that already occurred, can we? Because that talent takedown draft has already happened at this point. All right, well, my brain is melted as well.
Well, if you missed it, it happened a few hours before the episode goes live.
Now that is a much better way of doing things, isn't it, Kurt?
There you go.
If you missed it, go back and watch it. It'll be on this channel as well. It'll be like a 30 minutes of us drafting teams for the T-Mobile Talent Takedown. And you know, talking to T-Mobile, they happen to sponsor this show as well. And you know who to trust? It's them. T-Mobile wants to be the best in the world at connecting people to their world. With so much of our lives these days happening through a wireless connection, nothing but the best will do. We rely on wireless to do almost everything in life, from big deals to everyday connections. Wait, I've beefed it. Where was it?
Oh no!
No, from big deals to
From
everyday
big deals
connections.
to everyday connections.
Shut up.
Yep.
Shut up. So if you
Okay.
can't rely on your network, it can have big consequences. That's why you can't just trust this stuff to anyone. T-Mobile is America's largest and fastest 5G network. And with coverage and speed like this, why wouldn't you go with the best around? There you have it.
In America.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, America's largest and fastest 5G network.
It was voted by the same people that voted Jeremy a bottom for couple.
I don't think you vote
everyone
for
come
who
together.
the largest and fastest is. They're
No, they
in
do.
some
That's
sense
what they use the
objective
aver-
truths.
I mean, the voting's objective. They asked them.
Voting by definition is not objective; it's subjective, isn't it? Like anything.
There's
that
an
you could
objective
vote
behind
on.
it.
There is an objective.
Oh my God.
That's semantics.
Jesus Christ.
That is semantics. Okay, I want to get into the conversation here. Actually, no, I do. I want to get into the conversation about the playoffs. The playoffs have been announced, and we missed this right before our, or rather, this news was announced right after our last week's episode. And Matt was just sat there like this the whole episode. Just keeping his lips sealed, not giving us an inch, not telling us any information. And then immediately, as soon as we posted Plat Chat, the playoffs got announced. What do you think about this shit? We've got the playoffs in person. All of the teams that qualify flying in. This isn't some shit that's split between the West and the Eastern region. We'll be forced to watch APAC, God help us. And we'll have to pay attention to it. And, you know, that's how it's going to be.
This is the same venue, by the way. Texas venue is the same one they used for the Dallas event.
Yeah,
Just recently,
correct.
Yes.
It is.
It's the same one they used for this most recent one, and it's the same one they used for the last homestand in 2020.
It's not that picture, by the way. That picture is from Philadelphia.
Yeah, it's not that picture, but it's the Esports Stadium Arlington, which was the most recent Dallas event. And they've used it a couple times. So
Yeah.
It holds about 2,000 people, 1,500.
solid.
I'm not
I would
exactly
say
sure.
1,000. I would say 1,000, but it could go higher because I know they didn't fill it up totally for this last thing because of potentially because of COVID stuff.
Right.
So I mean, it could go higher, but it was pretty packed for that last Dallas event. And so I would say about at least 1,000.
Well, let's start with the format to begin with, though, because I think the public didn't exactly know what the format was up until this point, right? So we knew that the 3 Western teams would be able to automatically qualify for the playoff bracket. We knew that the 2 Eastern region teams, they automatically qualify, but the play-ins, it is the 4th through 9th teams fight over the last 2 spots in the West, and then the 3rd through 5th teams in the East fight over one last spot. So that's highly competitive in the APAC region, particularly. Like that's the region that I think makes the most. That's the region where this has the most impact, because it feels like most of the spots are pretty locked up in North America. At least you kind of know who's at least getting into the play-ins.
Yeah, at least not the seeding. The seeding is there, like who making the play-ins and who's making the playoffs. But APAC is definitely the most competitive region because I mean, in the mix there, Shanghai is obviously number one, but then I think Seoul is second, right? Because they've had so many successful games, right? And then it's just like Chengdu, Hangzhou, Philly are like clumped up with I think the same win score. But Chengdu has a way easier strength of schedule in the Countdown Cup, so that's going to be very exciting. New York has like an outside chance of making the play-ins, I think, but it seems as though it's going to be Hangzhou, Philly, and Chengdu on paper.
I gotta say, like, I don't know why. Maybe it is an obvious thing, and I just haven't thought about it properly. But 3 through 5 is only 3 teams for the Eastern region. When to me, why couldn't it just be 3 to 6? I feel like you'd have a pretty clean bracket, 4 teams. Kind of like a semifinals into a finals thing in the play-ins to get you the one last spot. That seems pretty clean to me. It's 1 extra match as well, and it would just fit in 1 extra team in APAC for the play-ins to maybe squeeze somebody through. 3 just seems really tight.
I think the logic probably goes that they eliminated the bottom 3 teams from the West, so they eliminate the bottom 3 teams from the East. I think that's probably the logic as far as that goes.
I mean, I can see that, but then like it's proportionally not correct because there's more teams from the West going in because it's obviously a bigger region.
Yeah.
The plains is bigger, but then if you eliminate the same amount of teams, that's the one part that doesn't match up as far as the proportion goes.
Yeah.
So I would have imagined, like, okay, there's less teams from the East that go into the playoffs, but then maybe their play-ins is proportionally matching as well. So maybe you eliminate only the bottom 2 teams instead of the bottom 3 teams.
I mean, it could just be that, by having a bigger percentage of teams eliminated, and I don't know how the percentage matches the North American one, but if you remove the bottom teams and don't let more teams in, you're like punishing teams who didn't do good in the regular season. And you avoid the scenario we had last year where like teams that were shit throughout Washington Justice just came out in the playoffs guns blazing and played really well. So it doesn't really relate to APAC region specifically, but that's what we're talking about now. But I'm not gonna cry over teams getting penalized for having shitty regular season records when it comes to playoffs.
Isn't it kind of cool the story of Washington coming through and just kind of smashing a little bit as well? Like there's 2 sides of the same coin, right? So on one side of the coin, you're right. It's like, oh, it's kind of crappy. Like a team that got dumps in the regular season is suddenly doing well. But on the other hand, it's like, hey, this is like a pretty cool underdog story.
Yeah, but the way they did it felt shit. If it was like any other team, if it was Houston Outlaws or Boston Uprising, yeah, that'd be fucking dope. But this team just picked up the K, who like refused to play on his original team, and then in the like Dallas Fuel were upset that he got to sign with Washington Justice in the first place. They just like they didn't play. They skirted their way around the rules. That was just like a shitty way to do it. So I get where you're coming from. I was happy to see Washington Justice actually play the Kianzari. I found it very interesting to watch. But I mean, it kind of defeated the I don't know. It felt a bit not cheating, but it felt not the biggest fan.
They also skirted more rules too, technically, when you think about it, because they technically signed Decay onto like, well, if you don't have enough players, you can bring in a player for postseason to come play, but they still had Lolshus on the roster and they were playing Decay.
Get there because of his visa
He couldn't get there, but he could play. He could definitely play. So, other people played on ping. So you could argue there's, I think the situation was definitely very different. And also, let's be honest, like that was just the Hog Zarya shit was just really dumb.
Yeah,
also,
the meta changes. Wild.
I'd like to say as well, if we're discussing about New York Excelsior here, because they seem to be that team that gets the 6th spot in that case, I'm sorry. I have no sympathy for New York Excelsior. Your tank line was fucking ass in the first half of the season. I have no sympathy for that team if they don't get included in the play.
Yeah, but they have less teams. To be fair, I do get like proportionally. It's just like not like, am I gonna like if I have a shin shopping machine and I taking off the same amount of shins from someone that's 4'10" and someone that's 6 foot, like it's just not the same, right?
What?
So, well, you get what I'm saying,
That's
right?
an analogy.
Who's
Like
letting
that-
you
when
loose
you-
with a shin chopping machine? What is that machine
right?
for?
That's not the machine is to chop shins. That's the whole point of it. The point being though is that there's far less teams in APAC. Like you could argue, and also they've been stuck with they've been trapped in the cage with Shanghai all year, right? And now they have like way less opportunities comparatively since we already have a short season. So I honestly do agree with Avril in that it's like kind of it seems like a lot of like they're not just take it down to like make it 3 to 6.
New York
like
are one of those
5.
teams as well where I could actually see a major meta shift making them a much better team. It would have to be a very specific meta where they're allowed to play like it's perma Widowmaker or something like that where Guangboon can pop up. Yeah, like mega DPS focused kind of meta because their tank line has just been kind of ass. Although they look better with Kaligos. But anyway, they're the kind of team that could maybe do something if the meta wildly shifted. With Guangzhou, I've lost, even though they've looked better recently, I've just lost hope. You know, the once you start to get down to that kind of level, it's like, well, even if the meta changed and everything went in their direction, I doubt we're seeing some kind of, you know, fairy tale run up the bracket. So we're only really talking about New York here.
Who's even coaching that team now? Which one of the 10,000 coaches that they cycled through? Who is it?
Didn't they pick up the one they had last year?
Did they go back to their old coach?
They got Sungwoo. Yeah, he was their ex-coach while they were back.
Yeah, that's right. Interesting. You've just cycled through all. You fired too many people.
I mean, speaking of, I mean, Spark's a team that have no coaching staff apparently. So
yeah.
Interestingly as well, Guangzhou and Hangzhou are two of the most transparent teams when it comes to those kind of moves. They just consistently can't find the right people to be able to hire in the first place. Moving outside of the format, though, if we looked towards the playoff portion, outside of the play-ins, the actual playoffs, so the stuff that we all just discussed, the 3rd through 9th in North America and the 3rd through 5th in the East, those are not happening at a venue. Those are happening online in their own regions. And then the teams that qualify go through to Arlington, to Dallas, basically. And they're going to be playing, I assume, across 4 days. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday are the only days that are listed here. That's a short period of time to run a full 8-team double elim bracket. That's going to be rapid. There's almost no time to be able to adjust to your opponents and like learn anything from your losses, it feels.
That's 14 matches in 4 days. So essentially 4 matches the first 2 days, and then maybe like 3 and 3 or something. I don't know how that's up, but it's going to be a lot of matches. A lot.
Does that not strike anyone else as kind of crazy?
I mean, it is crazy, right? But I mean, at this point, when we talk about it's just like I hate having the argument. It's like, well, playoffs should be longer. It's like, well, our season's really fucking short. So what do you want to do? Like, we just like, there's just no time, right? We don't have enough time to like do everything this year. You know, we only had 6 months to do everything. So I feel like, yeah, I'd like it to be longer, right? But where do we take that time from? From
the end of the season? Push it back?
Yeah. I guess you could push it back, but then also that was not the plan, right? The plan was not to do that. Like, obviously, the ideal solution is to make it longer, but since it is not longer, like, there's just no way to deal with it, you know? Like, I don't think there's any room for this to come out of. So I agree. Should be longer. Think it should be longer. But what are we going to do?
Yeah,
what are we going to do here?
Yeah, exactly. Like, what are you going to do? Like, your options are essentially to, like, extend the days that you play in Arlington, Texas. But at that point, it's like, hey, fans, would you want to come to Arlington Stadium for 5 or 6 consecutive days? And fans are like, probably, no. I don't want to buy tickets for 6 days. And then you're like, okay, well, are we gonna get 2 quote unquote homestands? And then it's like that you gotta deal with all of that bullshit. I don't blame Overwatch League for not organizing 2 homestands and like breaking up the playoffs into part 1 and part 2. And it's like, are we gonna have some of it online? Well, we had our entire season online. It's like, it's difficult, right? I'm more worried about the competitive integrity of, you know, like for the teams to be able to readjust that quickly for all those matches they have to play. I mean, if you go through the winner bracket, I'm just looking at the bracket here, you still have to play 3 matches, right? Because you have to play the quarterfinals, semifinals, and the winners finals, and then you qualify for the grand finals. And say if you go out in the loser bracket in the first round, you have to play 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 matches in 4 days. So like that doesn't feel fair to an extent. It's like, I get it, but it doesn't feel completely fair to the teams that have to play so rapidly and adjust so quickly.
It's going to be grueling.
And you know, you can always make the argument that like, well, you know, you should be adaptable. You know, you should be able to adjust on the fly. Well, it's like, yes, but also no, because that's not peak Overwatch in forcing teams to adjust that quickly. Because, you know, you want teams to perform at the highest level, not have teams decide who's the best when they both play like 75, 80% of their max level, you know? So I get it, but it is what it is.
It's a bit of a turnaround as well for the teams coming over, especially from APAC.
Yeah.
When is the play-ins? The last game of the play-ins September 4th, something like that. And then playoff starts September 17th. So you got like 13-ish kind of days there. I assume all the teams going to play-ins will be, fast-tracked in some sort of visa process. They're going to have to really get that sorted quickly, wouldn't they? So bit of turnaround as far as logistics goes as well.
Well, they have been working on it, right? John, I think he said in a Reddit AMA that they've been working on the visas for APAC teams throughout the season, actually.
Yeah.
So should the teams need it, they have actually been working on it. I don't know how far they are in that, but
I mean, considering that Pine still hasn't made it to North America, right? Like, obviously, like, hopefully it's like a good, but
I think
seems like there's still issues.
From something that Brad also posted on Reddit as well, though, the GM of the head coach actually of the Atlanta Reign, they are on a different visa based on. So
that's right.
You need a P. Apparently, according to him, you need a P1 visa in order to sign to an organization as a player, but then you need a B1 visa to like not move, but temporarily do your job in America. So it's not like you're permanently doing your job in America if you're an APAC team flying over to play a tournament and then leave. So apparently, as long as you already have a P1 to play for like a North American org, you then only need a B1 or something. I don't know. It's fucking confusing, but apparently it's not exactly the same process for Pine as it would be for one of the APAC teams coming over. Yep. So Brad knows way more than I do, but I also know nothing. So that's part of it.
That sounds right, though. That sounds right.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I appreciate that. Now, I'm gonna throw a curveball in here before we get on to talk about the grand finals. I want to give a shout out to our partner for this episode. We'll see whether Kurt's ready for this one as well. Our partner for this episode is Manscaped as well, and they've been kind enough to send us some of these products as well, and we've partnered with them before. You can go to manscaped.com and save 20% off an order with code PLATCHAT, and you get free shipping as well with that order too. I wanted to chill out for a moment and show you some of this stuff because
can you give us a show it how they work on stream?
Yeah, get Bren back in. Cut his hair some more.
Can we get
that, by the way?
I give him a different haircut.
Yeah, let me say this. It's not designed for use on your head. I'm sure it would function fairly similarly, but these are specific male grooming products. So, yeah. What did you say? It's a good job it's Bren.
No, somebody needed to tell that to Bren.
I'm just reading into that, aren't I? I'm just completely reading into that. Anyway,
I will personally vouch. I can say from experience, the lower half of your body will be happy. It's good shit, guys.
Exactly. So the reason that they wanted to partner again here is that the Manscaped have released this Manscaped 4.0, the lawnmower 4.0. There are 2 million men worldwide that trust Manscaped to cover their grooming needs in the lower half of their body. And I can definitely vouch. If you are using scissors, you are doing it wrong because the amount of danger involved with that it's too high. It's simply too high. Okay, so. Listen, ceramic blade, you'll never cut yourself. You won't bleed out in the shower. You can take it in there. It's waterproof. Go to town. Go to town. Hey, you don't want it absolutely shaved? Sure. Little guard, slot it over the top. Half a bush. Even bigger guard? You only want a slight trim? Oh, yeah, don't worry. Manscaped have got you. Another little guard. And now you've got a full bush, but it looks neat. Don't know if you're into that, but they're just there to kind of give you the options. Yeah. Another thing I liked as well with this product that they've released, I really want to show you this as well, is that they have a wireless charging station. So this is a charging station that you plug in, and there's a wireless charging station to just showcase your ball trimmer to the world. So
can you believe that like 70 years ago, this technology was dreamt of, and now we use it to charge stuff to shave our balls? Like, can you believe that? Like, that's just crazy.
It is just incredible, isn't it? It is actually incredible. The technology that's available. It is insane.
They also have great post shave products. All of that, pre, post, the whole shebang. So treat yourself.
Have you ever? I don't even know.
I know exactly the product.
Have you ever, I'm just going to say, have you ever needed ball deodorant? Okay? I know there's people out there who do. And listen, all I'm saying is when you live in Texas and it's 90% humidity, You do. So
If you don't need it, you might be in denial. I'm just saying. So
yeah,
we probably all need it.
That is also very possible. So the Manscaped have engineered the ultimate groin and body trimmer by focusing on intelligent functionality and incredibly comfortable grooming experience. Their 4th generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents, and it has a multi-function on-off switch so that if, for whatever reason, you wanted to take your ball trimmer on the plane with you, it won't accidentally start vibrating and you get pulled over from a bomb alert. Because that will happen if you have things that vibrate in your bag, as I found out before with my beard trimmer. So it has like a lock for the on-off switch, which wasn't previously part of the 3.0. So it is an upgraded product. They haven't just tagged the 4.0 name onto it. So there you go. You can get 20% off and free shipping by using the code PLATCHAT at manscaped.com. And can personally vouch because, like I said, if you're using scissors, you're a fool.
Yeah. And, if you find this ad very intrusive, just keep in mind that because of this, we can now afford to have Avast on the show for one more episode. So we're doing this for you, audience, really.
Yes, exactly.
It's good price, but we're doing it for you as well.
I know that now I'm just taking the advert to a whole new level, but they also sent a weed whacker, which is a nose and ear trimmer. And I know
that's actually good.
I know that 90% of our audience probably won't understand that because they're very young men that haven't developed these extended nose hairs that look like they're trying to take over your mustache. I can grow longer hairs in my nose than I can on my lip, and it's I've never tried using that before, and it was weirdly magical. Beth had to remind me not to remove every single hair inside my nose because you need them in order to, I don't know, block bacteria.
Is that means that's an extra one?
Well, sorry, yeah, no, that's an extra one.
Oh, I'm taking
that's different. This is a very different specialist nose trimmer. You do not want to be using the same trimmer for your balls as for your nose. I can tell you that.
Oh no! I'm just saying, is that an extra one that I could have?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
I'm taking it.
I have already used it, but yeah, you.
Wait, you used that one in the box and put it back in the box?
Yeah, I used it and put it back in the box. Yeah,
that's disgusting.
Okay. Moving
Do
on.
not share your Manscaped products with anyone.
No, it's probably not a good idea to share the products. But if you have spare ones, then give it to a friend or buy it for a loved one or whatever. Yeah, let's talk. I want to revisit this topic though, just to talk about the grand finals for a moment, because the grand finals are happening in LA. Does anyone know what this stadium is where the grand finals are actually?
It's called the Galen, right?
Yeah, I think so.
The Galen Stadium.
Center. Or stadium.
The Galen Center.
Galen Center.
That's what it is. I don't know anything about it.
Never heard of it.
So apparently it's like I think it was a UCLA sports arena. So I think it's where the college team, is it UCLA or is it the other college in LA actually?
It's for University of Southern California, USC.
USC, sorry, that's the
for
one.
USC.
Yeah.
So it doesn't look, it looks to me like it's a little smaller than the enormous stadiums that we've had in the past in New York, at the Barclays Center, and then Philadelphia at whatever the hell center that was called. They're running CDL there as well. So yeah, it's I think it's a little smaller, but it should still have this like big stadium feel, which I think will be awesome for grand finals.
Yeah, and just taking a look at pictures and stuff, like there is definitely the potential to make this big. Like on some pictures it looks kind of small and you're like, well, that's only for like a few hundred, but I think you can actually get people maybe in the thousands in here, not several thousands, but like couple maybe.
It'll feel like at least some of the biggest homestands we had in 2020. Like at minimum, it'll feel like that. It feels.
Oh, there's tons of League of Legends stuff. Oh yeah, the early League of Legends when they had like Zed and stuff performing.
I don't think it's a big surprise that it's like smaller than the other grand finals venues. It's probably you're expecting maybe more limited capacity with COVID and stuff, but
and also lack of travel.
This is probably also because of current COVID restrictions. You can't just go out of your way to fucking go to Vegas and like hire the T-Mobile Arena or whatever. There's a lot of restrictions in place. So I'm really happy that we get something that it's a good stadium. I'm hyped.
Yep. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I'm excited for the playoffs, though. I thought there was a strong possibility that we would end up doing the same thing as last year, where we had very separate playoffs and then just met for a Final Four or grand finals. And that would feel almost the same as Hawaii. It'd have a very similar vibe to it. This is going to be really different. Like you're getting intertwined regions throughout the playoffs the entire way through. That's awesome, because it's not just who's the best at the top, it's who's the best all the way down the pack. I think it's going to be great. Wait, is that the same center?
Yeah.
Oh shit, that is big. What is that for?
To be fair, that's
It's
probably
not- it's
like one of
not
those
massive.
flared. That's probably the flared lens a little bit, giving it a slightly skewed
True.
perspective, I imagine. But it looks nice. I'm really happy that we're gonna get. I mean, not having playoffs where all the teams in the different regions compete against each other just feels so much worse. Like it just feels like essentially you've been watching two separate leagues the whole year, and you don't even get to know like anything about like where they stand against each other. It's so much better to have the combined playoffs.
My expectation was that maybe we could get a live LAN grand finals and that would be it. And even then, I was like, well, that's an improvement upon Hawaii, and Hawaii's been okay. It's been pretty good, but like Avast said, if we don't get the LAN playoffs, which is a big deal, a big part of this, I think that's the biggest part of this. It would have not been as hype for me. So LAN playoffs is massive. Now you get to finally see more teams in the East versus the West in one setting than we've had before, and actually on LAN.
Yeah, it's awesome. The news this week around all Blizzard products though was marred with some serious, like genuinely extremely serious, and I don't know what's the word, just profoundly disappointing news of California. The state of California filed a discrimination lawsuit against Blizzard, against the whole of Activision Blizzard, not specific to like the Overwatch portion in any way, but included within that because it was the entire company, on the basis of I can't remember the exact wording, which is probably precise in this kind of instance, but it was essentially a large amount of sexual harassment, a culture of sexual discrimination, and just generally women being mistreated and not having the same opportunities to be promoted as the men within the company as well. And some excerpts from this lawsuit have then been posted to stuff like Bloomberg Law, who I believe broke this news, and then other stuff as well. We can't quite get the entire quote up on here, but it's got similarly horrible allegations in here of stuff like the cube crawling, of where people are drinking alcohol whilst making inappropriate comments and behavior towards female employees. Then there's stuff from individuals as well, explaining how they were kept back, how they were mistreated. There's one woman who was an employee that took her own life while on a work trip, and they later found out that the guy was had like what was it? Had like butt plugs and lube in his bag or something, and they'd been passing around nude photos of her as well. So they believe that contributed. Just large amounts of evidence that there's a thoroughly horrible work environment at play within Activision Blizzard for female employees, which is it seems like it's throughout the entire gaming or game development ecosystem, because Riot's had similar kind of allegations, although it doesn't even seem as intense. It feels like these ones are especially bad for Blizzard.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not only about the lawsuit, to be honest. Like, there's also been an incredible outpouring of similar stories shared on social media, whether it's Reddit or Twitter, from former employees who shared their own experiences. There were replies to some of the statements, and just like, I mean, it just goes on, and it's shocking to hear about all of this at once. Because it just like in the amount, like there's so many stories, and then there's the massive lawsuit, who really like not introduced, but like kickstarted the entire wave of just like stories shared from within the company. So, very disheartening. I mean, I don't work directly for Blizzard, but obviously I work for them indirectly through the Overwatch League. I'm a contractor for the Overwatch League, but it's like so disheartening as someone who's been a fan of Blizzard Entertainment for so long. I mean, I started playing WoW when I was like 10 years old, and I just like fell in love with the game. It's been part of like before I was a teenager. It's just like World of Warcraft all the way. Like my teenage years, I like every BlizzCon was the shit for me, and like every World of Warcraft panel, and some of the people working there now, like Alex Afrasiabi. I don't know what his I don't know what its actual last name is. I think it's something like that.
Yeah.
Like, I used to look up to that guy. That guy was the fucking shit. You know, he was funny on the panels, he had charisma and all that. And then you hear these horrible stories about, you know, they called him like Bill
Yeah, they called
Cosby
his
of the
hotel
company.
room the Cosby Suite because it was just a
Unreal.
well-known fact within Blizzard, apparently, that he would harass women and try and lure them back to his room. Which, I mean,
Yeah.
that is just... And there were, it alleges within the lawsuit that there were attempts to try and make that known and like push through the HR channels, and it just petered out. It didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
Because people in charge didn't want to do anything about it.
Yeah, and that's so disheartening when you find out that some of the people who like you grew up with and looked up to for so long just like turns out to be pieces of shit and so selfish to not, you know, take these complaints seriously and not be able to treat other humans
Welcome to the last
correct
10
way.
years.
So yeah, I mean, there's multiple examples of this.
Yeah.
You know, it's just only here, but it's like, you know, Bill Cosby himself.
Sure.
And you know, there's countless of those people who've been in, you know, Hollywood, for example. I mean, there was a Harvey Weinstein thing, you know, a couple of years ago, and how massive that was. So, like, you know, it applies to all kinds of entertainment areas and leadership in so many ways. But for someone who like fell in love with video games and like World of Warcraft and the world and everything around it, like this was supposed to be it. And what was so like hit me so hard was when so many of these people who came out with stories was like, we worked at Blizzard Entertainment because we love this company and we love their video games, and this was like the place. And if you think back like 5-10 years ago, Blizzard Entertainment really was like the game developer, you know, like that was some deluxe, you know, top of the list. Like if you had worked at Blizzard, that was the shit. And so like so many of these people, it really felt like Blizzard Entertainment was the place to be. And then you get there, and now there's all these stories going around about how women were harassed, you know, put down, told to stay in their lane, not taken seriously, harassed in so many ways. So like it was very tough last week to just hear about this. And actually, I went to a party. It was not the Mario party thing where Bren came into the finals.
Right.
I'm still salty about that, but it was a different party. And someone genuinely asked me, like a friend of mine, he was like, how do you feel working for Blizzard Entertainment now? Like when you know that this is the stuff that goes on. And it's a good question because like at the same time, you know, you're taking a paycheck from them, but I've worked with Overwatch now for like 5 years. Like Overwatch is my life, you know? And if you're a talent who maybe can work on tons of different games, you know, like we know a couple of people who they can bounce around like 5-6 different games because they're so amazing at what they do. Like I'm all in on Overwatch, you know? So it really made me reflect on like how to approach this situation as someone who really cares about Blizzard and really cares about Overwatch. And really for me, when I heard this, it was about almost like doubling down on making Overwatch like the leading franchise and the world that could inspire some kind of change. Because I mean, I don't know about you guys, but when the Overwatch trailer came out and it was like, you know, the world needs more heroes and shit, like I really bought into that. Like I was like, this is cool, you know, like this is the franchise. They've got the sickest lore. I love this compared to like some of the other esports. Like their lore is dog shit. I'm sorry. Overwatch was like the coolest thing because I really bought into this thing about, you know, like the world needs more heroes. Like everyone can, you know, stand up and fight for like what's decent in the world. There's tons of diversity, you know, all these efforts going on. So
quite an ironic message given the lawsuit allegations.
Exactly, but I bought into that. And so when I sit, you know, and talk about, you know, the Blizzard announcements, and it's like, yeah, we got PV now, mobile games, all this stuff. I've said this multiple times. Like, I really just want the Overwatch world to be successful, right? Because I believe there's so much potential in this world. Like, if it really becomes like a AAA kind of game, Overwatch, and, you know, like tons of people play PvP, like, I don't care. Like, I just want the message to come across that, like, the Overwatch franchise and world could inspire so much change in the world. So that's sort of what I've been reflecting on. And like, how can I contribute to like purvey this message and like enforce that kind of change in the world and for people to look up to that. So yes, it would be incredibly hypocritical, like if Overwatch becomes massive and like the culture is still shit. But I still think this is a great wake-up call for the company. And, you know, people were disappointed in the statements. it's not over. Like it's not over. Okay, like we saw today. Even there was that letter that came out. They reported about the letter, which had like thousands of Blizzard employees sign over. It was like this statement does not reflect the opinion of the employees at all, and we're disappointed in the leadership here. Which, I mean, I completely agree with. As someone who works for the Overwatch League, I was disappointed in the statements that came out, the two from the leadership. So
I mean, the statements were saying like, this is why companies move away from California. You're unaccountable, like bureaucrats.
Unbelievable.
And it's like, you're on the offensive. Really, you're on the offensive, are you?
Yeah. So anyway, I'm ranting here, but to me, I mean, this has been a big wake-up call for the company, and I hope they get their stuff together to promote a healthy workplace. But it's been a big wake-up call for me too, to be like, even though I work indirectly for Blizzard here, I can also be better about providing opportunities for minorities, like helping women, because I am, we're all in a position of power here to an extent. We got a Plat chat channel, like tens of thousands of views. So like we have our own personal Twitters and all that stuff. So it's been a big wake up call for me as well, to just like what we can do better in the world. And I got some stuff planned that I really want to go through with. But anyway, to finish the rant, very disappointing. But I personally look forward to providing more opportunities and try to help as best I can. It's been a rough week.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a really important moment.
I mean, go on, bro.
I'll just say one thing real quick here, but it's just like, I think, like, just to end with what Johnny said, it's just like a really important moment for the industry, the entire entertainment industry. It extends beyond gaming. And Blizzard have probably had this coming for a while. I mean, you've got reports and accusations that supposedly date as far back as like 2005, right? So there's a lot of old stuff that's been buried down that's surfacing now. And this is the biggest wake-up call possible, especially for executive leadership who, especially based on their statement, they're the ones that really need a bit of a wake-up call here as well. And I don't expect that this will, like, it won't be the end of Blizzard, and I hope it wouldn't be the end of Blizzard. And I say that because I want to see an opportunity for, the company to take this as a massive opportunity to bounce back and do better. The wake-up call to actually wake up and do the right thing and do what's required and make the change necessary to, bring the company back to hopefully anywhere close to where it has been. Because, like Johnny, I mean, like, I got a lot of history in Blizzard. I think one of the first games I ever played as a kid was like StarCraft Brood War. That's what I grew up with. So, I mean, there's a lot of personal conflicting feelings here for me as well. It's been a tough week for sure, especially reading the personal accounts of people that have been in the company. That is really, to me, what has been the biggest driving force, and what's been the most shocking part.
For sure. There's also a huge disconnect, it appears, like we talked about, between leadership and the employees of Blizzard. Like, there appears to be a gigantic leadership disconnect between where people currently feel with the boots on the ground. We're saying like, we don't approve of this, and we're not going to work on these products until we see something moving forward. And then we have someone putting that statement out saying this is why businesses leave California, is because
we're not allowed to sexually harass people.
Because we're not allowed to sexually harass people to the point of suicide. Like, no. In fact, I would go as far to say that anyone that was even in charge of putting that letter together should just be out of that company. If you don't want them, I would not want them in charge of anything ever that's even related to, especially stuff that's going to be going out to kids and like young kids that have to learn their own, like how are they supposed to like be a well-rounded adult and function in society if the media they consume is handled by people that think that if you're pursuing a sexual harassment case, this is just big government stepping on their toes. They should be gone. They should just be straight up gone. Like, fuck those guys. Like, get them out of there, like, immediately.
Yeah.
That's my opinion on it.
It's always weird when these kind of situations crop up, because the company wants to not apologize because they're going to fight it in a court. But then the best thing to do is always to acknowledge the problem. So they get stuck in this horrible scenario where they are just denying the facts and just backing themselves into a corner of.
But you can still
like
acknowledge
shit.
that there's like an issue, right? But this is the opposite. They literally said like, not only is this false, this is why businesses leave,
Yeah.
and you guys are unaccountable bureaucrats.
It's absurd, isn't it? It's absurd.
That is way different than a company putting out a PR speak and being like,
Yeah.
we hear the voices and we're gonna see what we can do and go, just like some very bland, like
they didn't even try.
talk. They didn't even try. They just went full scorched earth. Like, no, it's actually the SJWs ruining California or something.
It didn't sound apologetic, did it?
It was extremely not apologetic or even acknowledging the reality of the situation.
The only good thing to take away from this is that, I mean, Avril, a little bit to your point as well of like going back to good old Blizzard. It seems like the allegations inside the lawsuit would suggest that there probably was no good old Blizzard, that it's been happening within this corporate culture for decades at this point. And that probably means as well that the only good thing to come out of all of this is that it's being aired, that people now know what they're getting into with it, and they can or are being forced to shift that corporate culture as well to go away from that. And I mean, it can't just be leadership, right? Because your leadership can't create a corporate culture against the wishes of all of its participants. It still needs some buy-in from at least a bunch of the people who are just working there from boots on the ground. Obviously not everybody, but it's got to be some portion of the employees that are partaking in this behavior as well that are enforcing it. I know from my point, well, I mean, there's a couple of reasons why I don't feel like I'm in a position to comment on this properly at all, is that I'm not an employee of Blizzard. Even though we work and get a paycheck from them, we are never in the like cubicles, I've literally never done that. Turn up, do work. Turn up, do work, leave. So we're never in the same environment as these people whatsoever. We're working on a side project. So I have no idea what the culture is like inside Blizzard Entertainment. Not a clue. But just and I've never worked in a proper job before. I've never worked in a job outside of esports. So I've no idea what normal jobs are like, because I assume because the world is filled with sexual harassment and oppression, that there is some level of this in a number of different jobs that you could hold. But it's very hard to gauge whether, if you've only had one experience, whether it's like way worse in yours compared to normal. But just from like interacting with some people involved in esports, I know there's been like people in leadership positions that I've worked with in esports that I've thought were pieces of shit. But trying to say that to them or say that to someone else is very difficult when you are 3 layers below them in terms of like they're writing your paycheck and everything. That's a very difficult thing to be able to do, especially if you don't trust the processes behind the company.
You're scared for your job, right? Like,
well, yeah, and
it's
not just your job, but also just retaliation as well, or just the feel that it's pointless because they got into that position of power, or perhaps that you just don't understand. I don't know. It's difficult to fight against this stuff, but it's made me reflect on the necessity of doing so, especially when you do have a voice like that.
Which is why it's so important as well that the state government of California is stepping in and taking the case, because then it's no longer on the backs of individuals to do this. It's very, very hard for individuals to make a change, especially within a system that they're participating in. Like their livelihood depends on it. You need an outside source. You need someone with the authority to take care of this and make changes happen. And it's why it's so vile that the leadership is going to be like, these guys are just they're just here to ruin our fun, and they're just meanies. And like, because they know that the people under them, they control them. It's really hard for them to make change. The only one that can force them out and like is a state government or like a federal government, which is why that response is so ridiculous.
And that's why the letter from the employees today, we're recording Monday, was such a breath of fresh air in regards to that, because there's still tons of people who work for Blizzard who, despite their experiences, like really just want Blizzard to be successful. Like they want it to be a fantastic workplace where stories like this don't pop up and affect like the reputation of their workplace. And so I think we all agree, but I think we'd want them to internalize this and address the employees and speak to them in a matter, restructure the workplace, make sure that people are comfortable, and take action against these. Wait, Does that make sense? Take action against these allegations. Like, what you know what I'm saying? Like, they should
Yeah.
properly address them internally to like make sure that we actually grow and improve as a company. I say we, but again, I don't work there directly. Because like we could come out so much stronger than this. Like, get your stuff together. Like, we can take this experience with us and really grow and be like a leader in many ways to like show that like this is what's possible within gaming. Because I still feel like that's title up for the grabs. Like, you know, a gaming development company can like really show what it means to support women in that regard, support minorities, and become this like be a trendsetter in many ways for what a workplace should look like.
Yeah,
and
I
what
mean,
a franchise should look
title
like.
is up for grabs because game dev companies have been so shit at it for forever. I mean,
Yeah, that's what I
every
mean.
game
It's
dev
like-
company has had issues like this that have been
time to
just
grow up,
baked
you know?
into
Like-
it. Yeah, it
Yeah.
really is. I mean, we're saying this is a wake-up call, but fuck me, 5 years ago was a wake-up call. This is late, you know? And I know that some of these things happened years and years ago, but like, Christ almighty. The writing was on the wall like ages ago for this kind of shit. It was profoundly, I mean, it's always been unacceptable, but it was well known that you were going to get called out for this behavior being unacceptable even 10 years ago. So it is.
Thank you
it
to
is
the
kinda
people who
crazy.
share their stories. As
I want to.
Yes,
Thank
I gotta-
you.
absolutely.
I gotta clarify one thing as well, because like the whole like good old Blizzard thing, yeah, that like does sound like some real hardcore PM, like even some naivety in there. But I think what I really meant by that is like the idea of this company that you could look up to, because I think Blizzard in its
Right.
prime, and even the like
dream.
as I even said previously, there's accusations, allegations that go as far back as like 2005, maybe even earlier than that. So it's been happening for a long ass time, right? But there was the idea that Blizzard, at least back then, was a company you could look up to and you could, you know, feel good about it. And in terms of being an industry leader, in terms of being that kind of company that Johnny's even talking about, I think that's maybe the goal or idea that, you know, a Blizzard could reach towards, and maybe that is shooting for the stars now, especially with everything that's happened recently. But that's the direction any company should be moving towards to try and fix these issues.
I think people get what you mean when you say that, because like 10 years ago when Blizzard was at its like peak in terms of popularity, like you were a proud Blizzard fan and you loved talking to other Blizzard fans about the games, the culture, you know, cosplaying, the lore. Like it was a really fun, might not be the right word, but it was like a nice community to be part of. And to hear that like the stories inside doesn't reflect that brand properly, and the community, outside communities, is disappointing.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to our next segment, which is entirely frivolous compared to what we were just talking about. We're going to launch into a skin review. We're taking a look at the Overwatch Summer Games. I mean, it could not go from more serious to more frivolous if we tried, but you know, that's this podcast really, isn't it? The Summer Games. Sigma has a six-pack. He's looking ripped out here. People have been Googling at a much higher rate, how old is Sigma? Because of this.
I mean, look at his hair. He's got like full white hair. So he does look kind of old. He looks like a really jacked grandpa.
Yeah, he does. He's like
like that one grandpa that there's a video of, like, I think it's like a guy in China, and he's like 70 years
I've seen
old.
that. I've seen that, yeah.
And he looks like he's like 40 or
He's
something.
like the first bodybuilder in China or something.
Yeah, and he's ridiculously jacked. That's what Sigma kind of reminds me of. You know, it's like that. It's like a Master Roshi vibe.
People are losing it over the Ash skin as well, which I don't really get. I don't think it's a great skin, but people are losing their minds because she's got some beach gear on, I guess. What do you think about this Symmetra skin?
What's my design?
It's a cool design. I hate the concept of. I love the May one, actually. The May one is great. Like that diner aesthetic, I think is really cool.
Yeah.
I do love that one a lot. I think the Symmetra one's weird because I feel like dressing someone up as a fish, but it's like they just have a tail, you know, like it's just kind of strange.
Yeah.
But overall it was pretty good.
What is this? Oh,
Orisa's
it's the
good.
referee Orisa. Yeah.
That's a good one. Yep. Come on, ref.
That
I
one's
like
cool.
one.
I actually like that because she's like saying it's literally like a ref. It's like when Orisa's out, it's like no fun allowed.
No fun
Stop
allowed.
that. It's
Yeah.
literally a ref.
Orisa's skin I actually like the epic skins more than like the legendary ones. So like the Pharah is an epic skin. I like this one. I think it's cool. I like the gradient. Winston skin I like. More so than the legendaries actually. So
Now, am I going crazy here, or they never used to have like full, like almost? It's almost like this has a narrative to it. This skin video. Did they do stuff like this before? Am I just?
It feels a little bit more themed.
It does, doesn't it? Like, it feels like a fully fleshed out video that they're producing for this. Whereas in the past, I thought they just had like, they just showed off the skin and that was it. They didn't have them all like interacting with each other.
I mean, look how many skins there. There's so many skins in this particular line and theme now that I think they can have it a bit more fleshed out. It'd be different if there's only like 3 or 4 skins.
Right.
But now, and just by the way, you can see the Torb on the right there. The Torb one is still, I think, the best of this entire line. I think most people could agree on that.
By the way, I think Bren was supposed to do that Torb bikini cosplay,
yes.
True,
and he never
true.
has. And if I don't know if he's up the stairs or whatever, but Bren, you were supposed to do the Torb bikini cosplay at 5,000 retweets. That happened 3 years ago. So, at him on Twitter right now, at Brencast. Where is the Torb bikini cosplay?
The shells.
What else?
bring out the
What's your
receipts.
favorite skin? What's your favorite skin, Jonathan? Give me your thoughts.
It's not so much about the skin I like. It's more about the ones I dislike. I don't get the Sigma skin. I really don't.
You don't get the
I don't
Sigma
get it.
skin?
What is there not to
Okay,
get?
I get it.
What don't
Okay,
you get it?
he has a 6-pack. You know, okay.
Well, it's
he's
not
looking
that.
like
It's like he's wearing like scuba gear and stuff.
Pause
you
it right
know?
there. Sorry,
Okay.
pause it right there.
Here's the thing,
He's got the
though.
most suave look on his face. Look at his eyes. He's smoldering. He's smoldering. He's smoking hot.
He's Derek Zooland over here. He's doing the
He is.
derelict.
He really is. That's
No.
blue steel. That is blue steel.
It's overacting. It's overacting. It doesn't feel genuine. Okay,
This-
the scuba gear is the Overwatch equivalent, of like propeller hats. Like, come on, bro. It's not.
What do you
That's
mean it's
cool.
the Overwatch equivalent of propeller hats?
Propeller
Like, it
I don't
doesn't
understand how
cool.
it's comparable.
Like they spin and things, and they're like very colorful, and you know, like no, like just because you have spinning shoulder pads with like I don't know what they are, it doesn't look cool. I'm sorry.
Sounds
I
like
gotta
you
be
pissed your
right.
parents to give you a mobile when you were a kid.
I wish I had a
Sigma-
propeller hat when I grew up.
Sigma looks nothing like who I'm about to refer to, but he really gives me this kind of like mature Sean Connery vibe. You know, like this kind of the real suave, older
Okay.
gentleman kind of thing going on. Just gives me
Okay.
that vibe. Looks
Okay.
nothing like him, but you know, that's just what I get out of that.
All right.
Sure, I can see it.
I just think it's a sick skin. I don't know what else to say. It just looks like he's a buff grandpa, and I dig that. I think that's really cool. I mean, look. His model looks better. But pause it there. The balding,
Facial hair, I think.
Gru-looking motherfucker. I mean, he's got a forehead that looks like mine. There's nothing going for him. There's nothing going for him. You saw that bloke walking down the street, you'd feel sorry for him. You see this guy walking down the street.
It's really just the hair
Ooh.
that really did it. Because
It's
his
the
proportions
beard
are
as
relatively
well.
the same.
It's the beard and
Yeah,
the
that's what I'm
fact
saying.
is
Yeah, the whole package. The whole
This is
abs
like the
are out.
Jeremy of skin lines.
The Jeremy of
It
skin
is.
lines. Yeah.
It is. You are the Sigma to Jeremy's this skin, whatever this is.
Yep, exactly so. Yeah, that sounds about right.
This is Jeremy,
That
and
sounds
you're
about
the
right.
previous one that was Malden.
Mhm. Yep.
Oh,
I mean,
no,
you know what?
no
I
wonder,
can't- I
no
can't
wonder
disagree.
Florita was into him. Any
Oh,
other thoughts on the
God.
skins, Avril? Avast? Incredibly serious topic before we move on.
I like the
Uh,
Dino one.
The Torb one is still the best. It's an oldie but a goodie.
All right. What did you
Soldiers would
say?
be the best if he actually had an emote that could because he doesn't have the emote yet where he can actually physically place a steak on the grill. You know,
Mm.
if he had that emote, if he was physically able to be boomer out and like pop a beer and like put a steak on the grill, it would be the best skin. But he can't do that, so it doesn't matter. The Dino one to me is better.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Go on. Go on.
I was gonna shift back to the Sigma skin if you want
No,
to
go
do
on.
on this one.
I mean, go
I was
for
gonna
it.
say
We
that
haven't-
I have gained just a point of respect for the Sigma skin because Sigma does look like Tommy Flanagan, the actor.
Who's
So
Tommy Flanagan?
they look kind of similar, and he's a bit of a Chad. So
Okay.
Sigma is Tommy Flanagan.
What does he play? What, give me a cultural
He was in
touchstone here.
Gladiator. He was in Braveheart,
Glad-
Sons of Anarchy.
Really?
Maybe we could do a quick Google search, get Tommy Flanagan up. But they look kind of similar. They do.
We're about to pull someone up that looks nothing like Sigma, I can guarantee it.
No, of course he does.
Oh, the guy
It
with the
kinda
Glasgow
does.
smile. The guy that's got the genuine, like, Glasgow. Wait, is that the same guy? I think it is, isn't it? I think he's
yeah,
got...
he does. He does. Yeah,
Yeah,
His
yeah.
hair's
got
not
a
as,
little
his hair's not as
cute.
white. Oh, there we go. There.
No,
there.
I actually, I see what you mean. I see what you mean.
Yeah, so bonus points for Sigma, actually. It's grown on me.
Yeah.
Flanagan, so Chad.
No, I mean, that's a guy that could definitely give you the blue steel look, for sure. Yeah, and I exactly see where you're coming from as well. All right, I appreciate that. They also released a new deathmatch map, which had, I think it was Dante tweeting, yeah, Overwatch is saved, a new deathmatch map, hallelujah, it's what everyone was waiting for. Yeah, we're still in a drought. Malevento, though, looking kind of cool. What do you guys think?
I haven't seen the map.
You haven't seen
I don't
the
really
map?
know much about it.
No,
haven't even
All I
looked at
seen
it.
was I've only seen the preview image of it, pretty much.
Oh
And
my
It was
I
kind
saw,
of
like, some
bird in
stills.
news.
I mean, the previous
Yeah.
deathmatch map that they made, the last one was Kanazaka?
Kanazaka.
Kanazaka,
And I only
yeah.
just played Kanazaka like 2 days ago, the first time, and that map's been out for a while, so I'm far behind.
Now
I'm very
that-
far behind.
That is a gorgeous map. That is a really good looking map. It has really cute stuff inside of it. A lot of like fun little Easter eggs. A cat cafe. You can
We
see
had a whole
Hanamura in the
challenge for
background.
it, for the Overwatch League. There was like the challenge, the Kanazaka Deathmatch Challenge, which was
Yep.
actually like a cool little thing.
Yep.
So,
Can we bring up Malevento for the people to see? Kurt?
Everything I'm looking up saying that they pulled the map.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Are we
I'll
behind
scrap the segment.
Are we behind the curve here?
Like this is 3 days ago.
Oh, did they decide not to release it? What the?
So we're not getting the Malevento Overwatch League event then. Okay.
Oh,
well,
Overwatch is not
wasn't it a leak anyways, and not a it wasn't like them sharing the
Yeah,
map, right?
it
Wasn't
was a
leak?
leak.
Yeah. So it was
Ah.
not like an official like thing. They just said like, oh, Malevento could be coming. Like we found this in a leak, and like no at no point was Blizzard ever like Malevento. Here it is. We've essentially just been working off of like info.
So what was
that
it?
just got
Data
leaked.
mined or something? I missed this.
I mean, it pretty much what I see. I think the story behind it was
Oh, so it's on PTR.
Yeah, that's
well,
what
it was
this
supposed
article
to be
says.
going to PTR. It was supposed to go into PTR on July 22nd, but it hasn't happened yet.
But this is speaking
No,
in
it
past
says
tense.
July
Or did it
2nd,
go?
adding the Malevento. I don't know.
Okay.
This is
Oh,
from
yeah.
a deleted article that has been archived on an archive website.
What the? What is going on here? There's some mass conspiracy happening with this deathmatch map. Okay, we're lost in the source. I don't know what's going on anymore. I mean, the map looks. It looks beautiful. I like anything
What
Italy themed. Italy has phenomenal architecture.
I mean, it hasn't 100% has not released because it would be on the Overwatch competitive subreddit by now, and I have not seen anything about it other than the leak.
Mm.
No, I'm pretty sure it was on the competitive Overwatch subreddit.
I thought the leak was.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
where I
the
got
leak.
this link. It was from the
Yeah.
leak.
Mm.
It was
Oh.
the leak.
So maybe they had that article ready to drop, and then
They pulled it.
they put
The
then they
news
deleted
is
the
that
article because it didn't
supposedly
drop.
the lawsuit has changed their timeline for stuff, is what some people are theorizing. Obviously, who knows like what the exact reason is? I mean, does Overwatch? Do they really need an excuse to not put content in Overwatch? I mean, like let's be honest. Like it's not like they've just been slamming in content into the game all the time. You know, so who knows?
Yeah,
who knows,
yeah, yeah, yeah. They never have a day off. They're just every day adding new content.
Every day,
into
just so
Overwatch.
much new content. Like so, guys, it's just a shame that this
All
one.
right,
I mean,
well,
it's just one. You know, whatever.
Fuck it, take this lower third and save it for another episode because it's coming back at some point probably. I mean, maybe
Yeah,
maybe
it'll probably come back.
Okay, a new deathmatch map has been added to the Overwatch PTR server. No official notice of the update being
Oh,
given
so
to
it
the
is on the
community.
PTR. Okay.
So this was July 24th, though.
yes. So, but that was it definitely came out. It was supposed to come out July 22nd, according to the leak, and it came out July 24th.
Yeah, which was like the day after.
But
the
only on
lawsuit was made
PTR.
public.
Yeah.
Okay,
But
I
with
mean
also
that
no
is
notice.
yeah, that is bizarre.
Strange.
But yeah,
Strange.
bizarre.
I haven't
But-
gotten a chance to see the map. I was out of town, so I haven't a chance to really deal with this and look at this. I mean, deathmatch maps are cool, but it's like very much. I'm always down for new stuff, but once again, it's not the content that I'm always looking for. You know,
Mm.
I don't. I like it's cool, better than nothing, but
Yeah.
you
Okay.
know, I'm excited.
Well, on to some other sad news within the tier 2 scene, actually. American Tornado, the team that has been dominating the North American contenders scene for the last year, pretty much. It's been almost exactly a year. Has disbanded. This was also the team famously that made fun on Twitter of Runaway disbanding. So that I'm sure got them a lot of love afterwards. But this is like a team that was chock to the brim full of a very young tier 2 talent that all looked like they were going to... They looked like the fresh crop of Overwatch League players from North America that would be into the Overwatch League as soon as they became eligible. And they've disbanded, I believe, because 4 of them are going to college. And so they're going to be playing in collegiate instead of playing together in contenders.
Let's just say I think the collegiate program is like really good. I think that's a good move. If you're a young player, especially some of these guys still like 16, it's going to be a long time before they're of age anyway. It's almost like a better pathway to go collegiate.
Sorry, AVRL, I shouldn't have interrupted you there, but Kurt just pulled up the tweet and it just reminded me how ridiculous that tweet was. Runaway's like the most beloved, the most beloved team worldwide, and they go for a mockery of them with runner what, runner who, runner whomst, and then congratulate themselves for being the most durable and bestest team in tier 2 worldwide.
It's a bit of a weird tweet.
They're playing into being the heel, perhaps, but then they disbanded like
they're not even the real
later.
heel because like dark mode's the heel of fucking tier 2, so they're not even the real heel. It's kind of played into.
I could understand if it was like, for example, I mean, I don't expect this to happen, but hypothetically, if British Hurricane disbanded, then AT came out with that, I'd be like, all right, I get it. They have some history, and there's some banter there. There's like no relationship between AT and Runaway at all, so it just seemed a little bit strange.
Yeah. Sorry, I did interrupt you though. What were you saying about the collegiate scene? My apologies.
I was saying that I think 3 of them have gone to, what is it called? Redbird Esports?
Redbird Esports. Yeah,
Illinois
it was
State.
Hydron, Reiner, and Ultraviolet all went to Redbird.
Yeah. There's like S9mm and Luke Mina on that team as well, so it looks pretty stacked. I'd say that, for the most part, that's looking like a top tier NA contenders team to me. And, the other thing I was talking about is I think there's, as far as contenders players go, especially if you're young, the collegiate route's probably a better way to go anyway, because you at least get an education while you're playing. So
I mean, think about Juby went from collegiate to the Houston Outlaws. Like, collegiate is by far the best option. I've been telling players for a long time. Like, when I did that ESPN like college finals in 2019, I was like, just get everyone in collegiate. Just take all tier 2 players and put them in collegiate. Like, there's no saving. There's no saving the path to pro currently in its current state. Like, who knows, maybe with Overwatch 2. Just go to collegiate, you get an education, you get a lot of expenses paid for, and just like go
what if
there.
You're not in college though, Avast?
Well, I mean, if you're going to be a professional player, then you should be prepared also. Like, well, what if you should just like take the collegiate program scholarship to go to college? Then why not? It's going to be more than you get than playing in contenders. Like, so worst case scenario, you go to college and you fail your classes, and now you're back to being a tier 2 player at the exact same spot, right? Like, I mean, there's literally there's like almost no downside, essentially.
Any playing contenders, unless they have like serious ability to get to Overwatch League, if they're just playing contenders and they don't have a job and they're older than 18, like that, like I don't know, man, like they should just be honestly looking at collegiate or some other option, because I'm all on board with what Avast is saying here as well. Like, you get yourself an education at the same time as playing if you're trying to play, and either option could work out, but give yourself a damn safety net.
And you can get picked up still. You can get picked up, like the fact because of the current status of tier 2, like essentially you can 100%, if you're in North America and you're in collegiate, or if you're a European player in North America as part of the collegiate program, you could still get picked up for Overwatch League. And there's a lot of advantages for that. And you actually have some stability. Playing tier 2 by itself with like as long as you still compete within tier 2, right, under the collegiate program, it's 100% a better option than trying to go it alone. It just is. Like, there's no other region that you currently can other than like Korea and China, sort of, right? Currently, like, you just can't do it, unless you happen to be on British Hurricane or like Boston or Uprising Academy, right? Which is like, if you're part of like one of the 2 academy teams left, then like, sure.
Yeah. It's the former British Hurricane squad moving up to the Overwatch League, American Tornado disbanding, and Runaway disbanding as well. Those are the 3 biggest teams in each of the respective regions, or at least the 3 biggest like rosters, and 2 of the teams that have ended up disappearing. It's a pretty sizable blow. It does feel like tier 2 is just I mean, it was on its last breath anyway, but it does feel like it's about to utter the death rasp and disappear.
Which, to be fair, we've talked about this before, and I think I think a lot of people have very ridiculous expectations about tier 2 anyways. Like if you look at like the CS:GO, if you look at CS:GO tier 2, you have squads that get paid like $3,000 to $4,000 a month, and their games get viewed on like FPL or like MDL for like 2K viewers. And that's like the expectation that it should be.
Yeah.
That's ridiculous. Like the thing is, like, everyone's like, look at all these other thriving tier 2 scenes. No, there are no thriving tier 2 scenes. They're all a giant money sink. Like, the expectations just need to be like lowered. And we have to also expect that if you want to run a tier 2 as part of an ecosystem, it will be a bit of a money sink. Like, and that's okay. That's how it kind of works, like, everywhere, you know? But there should also be some lowering expectations, a little bit of like what players think they're going to get out of tier 2.
It tells you a lot when one of the most successful tier 2 teams in the history of all tier 2, where, you know, the only real financial incentive for anyone running a tier 2 team is maybe you sell off your players to Overwatch League and collect those you know, buyouts, right? And Runaway's been at the head of that because they've sold so many players over the course of their, you know, tenure in esports. And if they fold, it's just like, I mean, one of the top tier 2 teams has folded. They weren't financially stable. That says a lot. And I've been a big proponent for a while that, you know, I think collegiate has been, you know, a big part of that. To me, is the future of tier 2 is collegiate, but beyond that as well, you know, I would love to see tier 2 just being opened up to more third party potentially, because, like, I don't know, it's tier 2 is just in a really rough place.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it becomes the whole like ring around the rosy kind of thing, where it's like, yeah, we'll offer it to third party, and then the third parties are like, why would we want to show this esport that doesn't have any viewers or like no notable names, you know? So like it's a whole thing. But I think we can all agree on that there's, you know, better ways to go about this. We'll see what they're cooking up in the lab. But you know, one of the things is honestly we need, like, if tier 2 is to change, we kind of have to stop calling it tier 2. This was actually an opinion that was brought up to me. I can't specifically remember. Oh, I should create that person. But they were like, one of the problems with tier 2 is that everyone's like almost like pushing it down by just like, yes, tier 2. It's like it's not really great Overwatch or whatever. It's like, that's part of the problem. Like, we should just brand it something else. Like, this is just Overwatch, but like, yeah, obviously it's not the Overwatch League.
It has a name.
It can be better.
Yeah, it's called Contenders. It's officially not called tier 2. It's the community calls it tier 2.
No one's called. I mean, like, yeah, no one's forcing anyone to call it. Like, Blizzard isn't sitting there with a gun to people's heads and call it tier 2. Call it tier.
But you get what I'm saying, right? You get what I'm saying, right?
I get what you're saying, but that seems like, I don't even know where to begin with that. Should we put people into re-education camps? Like, I don't even know where we should start with tier 2.
Here's the thing, Johnny. I agree in the sense, like, okay, the social media manager who manages the contenders, the part of the pro account, should probably not call it tier 2. That's where they can fix it. But beyond that, there's no official tier 2 that they don't call it tier 2. It's called Contenders and Open Dev or whatever else. So
yeah, I'm not telling Blizzard. I'm telling like the community. Well,
then the community to like probably. But that's like a hard thing to change as well. Like, you got to tell the whole community, but it's all about calling it tier 2.
It's all about branding, right? Like the World Cup, even if no Overwatch League players ever played again in the World Cup, they could farm fucking impressions, viewership from World Cup because the branding of it. If you brand something as the path to pro and contenders, every part of your wording there implies that they are worse than the Overwatch League.
Even academy teams.
Yeah, which is a deliberate branding decision by the Overwatch League, by Blizzard, to do that because they want to put Overwatch League on a pedestal. Even though we've all known as analysts within the scene, there have been many, many times, and there will continue to be many times, where the contenders teams, some of them, are better than the majority of Overwatch League teams. In fact, there could be some instances where the best team in the world is a contenders team, and there probably have been at various different points in the meta throughout the Overwatch League's history. But it's if you brand it as path to pro, everyone just assumes, yeah, well, all 10, 20 teams in the Overwatch League are better than everyone in tier 2.
Yeah, there's some genuinely good play there.
What they could do to fix that, though, is to actually have some open tournaments in the off-season. That would immediately fix the problem, because any team then that beats a significant number of Overwatch League teams, boom, people want to watch them. People are fans of them. That's how you get open circuits to thrive. That's why CS, etc.
Well, we're not in an open circuit, so you cannot do that, because then you undermine the Overwatch League teams. So then you put that on the Overwatch League.
You could, though. It's just the Overwatch League teams don't want that.
Doesn't want to do it. I mean, because like there is no
And it
beating
makes sense.
branding.
It makes
There is no
sense
beating
why they
the
wouldn't.
branding there. Well, I mean, does it though? I mean, well, yeah, it does. It does make sense, really. It really does. But the point being is that, like, in terms of the overall health of the game, you could argue that it doesn't matter, right? Like, at some point, you also have to argue we've already made a lot of changes to the format to Overwatch and Overwatch League. Why couldn't we make another format if we feel like it's going to be good, like another format change? If we feel like it's going to be good for the overall health of the scene.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure it
I'm
even
just
does
saying.
benefit the Overwatch League teams. The Overwatch League teams directly benefit if they get increased viewership for the scene as a whole, because they have revenue split on that kind of stuff. So I would argue that would help rather than hinder. Like if you're a Boston Uprising or something like that, and you've been shit like in the previous seasons, before they rebuilt, or like whoever, your Vancouver Titans at the end of this season, fuck it, put your current team, keep them on a contract, put them into a big tournament where they play against contenders teams. Whoever shits on them the hardest, pick them up next year. Like that's the kind of stuff that you could genuinely do in an off season like that. You generate hype for the people that you're going to then pick up because you're planning to rebuild during the off season anyway. Any organization that owns a bad roster is going to look to make, or at least should be looking to make, some improvements in the off season anyway, which an open circuit would help to generate hype and give you good scouting reports for those kind of players.
I think I don't know exactly what the idea is. I mean, we're just spitballing, right? But I think I like those standalone tournaments where you could have like 2 or 3 Overwatch League players per team, because then you're not directly undermining the Overwatch League teams themselves, which we've covered from a business perspective. It doesn't make sense, but you still have that influx of like Overwatch League caliber players playing
like World Cup
on the broadcast on the stage against other contender players.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd argue from a business. I just want to add one thing though.
Go on.
I'd argue from a business perspective, you can't even make the argument anymore. That doesn't make sense because that requires such a degree of separation and like viewership, like and pedigree that it says like, oh, like we would never, like the NBA would never be associated with the G Leagues, essentially, right? Like it's the G Leagues because like we have such a huge degree of pedigree. Could we really argue at this point in Overwatch in the life cycle of the game that there is that degree when we have Vancouver Titans and Valiant running around?
I don't think so, personally.
I don't think so. I don't
think you can actually pull the wool over people's eyes
thing,
anymore.
Right? Yeah, you can't. And that's not a bad thing, right? It's not bad to say that like the league has shifted and the ecosystem has shifted. We should just incorporate tier 2 more into it for the overall health of the scene. You kind of have to be essentially have your head up your ass to see like, I will never associate with Contenders because this spot is going to be worth $100 million a year from now. No fucking way. You're delusional. Like just, or incorporate it, like just revamp your expectations. And that's perfectly fine. That's a perfectly healthy business expectation to have.
I don't know. That would mean that you'd have Overwatch League teams in the off season where they're supposed to not actually play at all, go up against hardcore tier 2 teams trying to earn their spot into the Overwatch League, and you'd put pressure on these Overwatch League players to always consistently practice to earn their spot in open tournaments. I don't like that, and I think if you have upsets there, it's not entirely representative of the Overwatch League.
Well, it depends. I mean,
so say like if you put Hangzhou Spark in an open tournament in the off season, and say like I don't know, Shy hasn't practiced and like his team, they haven't practiced as a team seriously because it's the off season, and then they lose to like I don't know whatever tier 2 team. That's people are going to overreact to that. That's going to make Hangzhou Spark look bad for losing to a tier 2 team, while it doesn't, in my eyes, properly reflect Hangzhou Spark's potential as a roster in the Overwatch League. That's why I kind of don't like it.
The Overwatch League is quite unique in that it has a long off season. Most of the esports don't.
I mean, are we gonna? You could make that argument if we have if we only have like a 2 to 3 month off season again, maybe. But if it's going to do another 6 month, or even 4 to 5 month off season or something, like there is like what value is added by that?
I think there should be tournaments, but I don't think you should like require the Hangzhou Spark to sign up, for example, and just be like, yo, playing these open tournaments.
Yeah.
I mean, also we could also revamp the scene a little bit more. We don't have to be a fully league system.
Probably should
as much. Yeah.
I don't know if you guys paid attention to CDL, but when there's a new Call of Duty game that drops, normally what happens is the game drops and then there's a bunch of open tournaments, and the actual CDL teams play in those open tournaments with just like amateur teams and everything. So the Dallas Empire will just be there. They're like the world championship team from the previous year. They'll just be in this tournament with amateur teams and like up and coming teams. And some of these CDL teams will actually lose in these tournaments. Some of them, a lot of them will actually win because they're good, but some of them might actually lose. But it's just an interesting thing that in CDL, the actual franchise teams and rosters actually play in these open tournaments. with
COD
the new
also
games.
has an enormous history of running big open events, like massive open events where you've got like 100 teams all playing in the same bracket, you know? Like that was the bread and butter of the COD scene and a lot of console scenes for the longest time. So it does. I imagine for them that is normal rather than being anything extraordinary in any sense. Like the franchise system is more extraordinary for a scene like that.
Yeah.
I want to move on though here and talk about the fuck up that Plat Chat did last week. The little fucky wucky, which was banning Lucio, Sigma, Ash, Echo. I mean, the commissioner of the marbles in absolute shambles. Your system produced nonsense, Avast. Your system
It's a fantastic
produced
hero pool.
nonsense.
What are you talking about?
Is that a
I
good
think it
hero
was a
pool?
good
It's
hero
what
pool.
Jonathan
Johnny,
wanted.
I love it. How
I
did
thought it was a good
Jonathan get
hero
about it? I was so impressed with Jonathan and your little X-Files video you did. That was the best content, man.
Yeah, you were. You had another Nostradamus
Just knew.
moment. You got
just
away
knew.
with it again.
Can't keep getting away with it, right?
It's absurd.
Jonathan actually just decides the bans. You guys think it's random? No, Jonathan's already written them down before. It's like, here you go, ban these.
People ask me, how
Yeah.
do you decide where the marbles are placed? You know, like their starting positions. they were like, well, but you know, it's not truly random. How did you decide where the marbles were placed? I was like, bro, the game just randomly allocates them a position. It's fucking RNG. It's
We
just
choose which team we hate the most and how they be affected by the bans, and we place the marbles appropriately.
it is literally a graphical representation of an RNG, a random number generator. That's all it is. That's all it is.
Sigma's in the middle. You can't even argue. Sigma's directly in the middle. He's not at the front. He's not at the back. He's literally in the middle. And he got
Perfectly
banned,
placed.
so-
Perfectly placed. He has all of the velocity from being higher up, higher gravitational potential, but he doesn't have the enormous gap to be able to close as the people at the top. He's in the perfect sweet spot. That's why he won.
It was placed perfectly to avoid the pegs as well. It just like slid across them.
Yep.
Just
I think we
around
should
them.
be
It's
looking
genius.
into this for sure. We need to have
Yep.
an investigation about
Yeah.
Aren't you the
we'll call it
commissioner?
marbles. We'll call
Yeah,
it
you're the
Marbles Gate.
commissioner.
I'm the commissioner, but I'm open to change within the system. Fight
Oh.
the power, guys.
Okay.
Fight the power.
Let's vote as a community.
I will
Were
say-
these fans good or bad?
This was maybe the most intense series of marble races I've ever seen in the history of all marble races. Maybe I just don't watch enough marble races, but
Well, there's a lot of stakes with this one comparatively. There's generally
Yeah,
not
yeah,
as many
yeah. stakes
stakes with marbles racing. It's like you're pretty much just like counting.
Dicking
You're watching
around.
paint dry, but with marbles. So
Yeah. All right.
high stake.
Avril, you weren't on the show before. When you look at, or rather, you weren't on the hero pool draw before. When you look at this this hero pool of the heroes that are not allowed, Lucio, Sigma, Ash, Echo, what is the meta that springs to mind? Or what few compositions do you think are actually going to get playtime?
Literally what Shanghai and Chengdu have already been playing. I think that's going to be prevalent, especially for those two teams. None of these bans really affect them outside. Okay, yeah, well, Echo is maybe a little bit painful because Leave loves to go Echo specifically. Flit is going to go there as well, maybe sometimes. And you'll actually notice something that Chengdu play when they struggle is Leave will often be the guy, be like, I don't know what's working. This isn't working. Let me just go Echo and that'll fix things. And sometimes that will fix things. So that option's going to be gone for them. But it shouldn't affect those two teams, the top two teams, I think, in APAC currently, not going to be affected at all. They're loving the bans right now. Shanghai even dropped that tweet as well after your little video, Johnny, which I thought was pretty funny. Yeah,
I mean,
it'll
it's
be
so
fine
much
for them.
money. It's unbelievable. I am rich.
Wait, what was the Shanghai tweet?
It's like, check your PayPal. I mean, well done on the bans, Johnny. Something like that. I'm
yeah,
paraphrasing.
we got APAC money essentially for doing
Yeah.
these bans this way.
Yeah.
The Lucio ban really screws NA, but doesn't really change anything in APAC. Sigma, APAC wasn't playing it anyway. Ash and Echo were being played a decent amount, I'll be fair. Plenty of hit scam players were playing Ash. Shy is going to get nerfed quite heavily by Echo and
Oh,
Ash being
yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
He's going to be having to go hard McCree Tracer now. Those are his only last remaining picks. But yeah, aside from Hangzhou, I think the rest of the teams are probably good.
Okay, so here's the thing, though. I completely agree that we'll probably predominantly see the Wrecking Ball with the Tracer and the Sombra composition. You can, theoretically, still play something like a Brigitte on a McCree kind of backline to try and deal with some of these flankers.
double bubble.
You can still play the Diva against some of these hit scan heroes like Tracer. Sombra has a tougher time. But there are still picks here to make some kind of slower composition work to try and counter the Tracer and Sombra composition. So That's why I kind of like that. Even though Ash is gone, I don't think we would have seen a ton of play. I don't want to see double shield. I don't want to see fucking Slambulance meta with Lucio in it. So now we both have two good choices. We can play the Brig slower comp with the McCree, or we can just play dive. We can just go dive with Mercy and Pharah, perhaps. You can play dive without the Lucio. So I love the Zero Pool because I think we have some good options here. They're entertaining and fun to watch.
I wanted to pose this question to Avast. The comp that Shanghai ran towards the end of their finals had Ana Lucio in the backline. It had this, it was Reaper Sombra, right? It was Reaper Sombra.
It was Reaper Sombra, yeah.
Winston Diva, and then Ana Lucio was the kind of archetype that they ended on. How do you think that works with a Brig in there? So you don't have the speed to be able to operate.
I mean, you've seen teams play. I mean, Shanghai played that. They played that same comp where, like, we've seen teams play Reaper with no Lucio, and they play like a very. I think Dynasty did it too, actually, with Fleta, where you play like a very slow Reaper comp. Or not Dynasty. Not Dynasty Fleta. Sorry, just totally with Fitz. I might be totally misremembering if they did it with Fitz. It's two F names, but Shanghai definitely did with Fleta, where they played this Brigida comp with it. Yeah, it's right here. And they were able to play a very slow point control presence and like kind of like an anti-dive Reaper at times. I don't love it myself. I really don't love it, but they actually did get success on it, so it could be great.
This area of the map is very...
Yeah,
it's very contained, right? It's like the Brig is going to get value compared to a Lucio in bigger open areas.
Also, it's also really hard for like the Wrecking Ball to get around this comp, because when you don't have a Lucio, right, and you're playing against the Wrecking Ball is a lot more free. Like, you're able to set up your engages a lot easier, right? Because you're not running right for a speed boost. There's no speed boost to worry about for your back line, so all of your flank heroes can run around this whole time while you're playing against this very slow on a Brigida comp. But as soon as that's gone, the Wrecking Ball is a lot more free, and your flankers are a lot more free to set up.
I mean, we were in silly, well, not quite silly territory, but we felt like we were almost there at the end of this, where you've got Lee Gon moving over to Zen as well. It did definitely feel like this was Shanghai being like, okay, let's try some different shit. We've got to go for our alternate approach.
That backline strong here because there's like no flanking pressure versus them at all.
Exactly, and it's really bad versus Chengdu because that's like not something I would really put Chengdu as like masters of, is like trying to play a more static comp, right? They want to be on the ball, they want to be on the Winston, and this comp is good versus that.
But I mean, that's what Fleta said in the interview as well afterwards, that they knew that Chengdu had a hard time adapting, so they just wanted to like fuck around with comps, and they did so throughout the entire series, and did so effectively. Like, great hero swaps from Shanghai, and that really like perplexed Chengdu.
But Chengdu are one of the least flexible teams in the league. They legitimately are one of the least flexible teams. They cannot play things outside of, I think, probably ball and a little bit of Winston here. I think, there's going to be very map dependent compositions coming into play. So if we are looking at any sort of open maps, control maps in particular, it's going to be heavily dominated by ball, Winston, especially ball. But once we get to maybe certain parts of more closed areas, like Route 66C is a perfect example here, we're going to need to be looking at the possibility of other compositions thriving. And that's maybe when Reapers can come into play. I still think Reaper without Lucio is pretty painful, but we'll have to see what the matchups look like.
Also, another reason why I like this hero pool is because it's fairly straightforward. It's not absolutely straightforward. Like, you don't know exactly what you're going to run. But for the most part, I hate this dumb bullshit where like week 1 doesn't matter in the Overwatch League, because like, we got a hero pool, teams are figuring shit out, they still don't know what they're running. This is irrelevant because they're going to play something else later on in the tournament. Now with these bans, it feels relatively straightforward. Like, what we see in week 1 might actually matter down the line. And this is what I appreciate with a pretty straightforward hero pool like this. Like, it feels like the initial couple of weeks, teams will probably know what they're going to play for the rest of the stage. And I think that's important.
Could still happen though. Could be some crazy shit. I could see Torb being pretty good here as well. I could see Torb actually pretty decent because because there's, you're like, sure, you don't have Echo to play against, but Torb is still good for harassing like Pharah, Genji, Tracer. You can have it to like kind of shred tanks. You can poke the ham end of it. There's definitely a chance for Torb to still get some playtime here too. I agree. As well.
I think there could be NA teams that if there's certain teams that really don't want to play dive, or they want to try and find a counter comp, and they want to play something more static, Orisa, Torb, McCree could be a reasonable choice. This is going to be very map dependent again. Maybe a defensive only comp or an escort. You need to have a lot of attacking tempo on the payload itself. But I could see teams being a little bit more experimental to see like, okay, do we have to play dive or can we find a counter? And Torba's probably at the center of that counter.
God, it feels horrible to play those comps without a Lucio in most scenarios, though. You know, I guess you still have a Symmetra, actually, if you want to be a little more mobile. I was kind of wishing that the Sim would be the one that was banned so that we could see that mobility kind of taken out, because I did enjoy the Sim being played, but I'm done with it. I'm done with it at this point. I don't want to see any more silly Sim shenanigans. It was fun for a while, but not forever.
Ruin the rotations of the map a little bit. I will admit, having limitless TPs makes it so rotations are just non-existent, right? You don't even have to worry about like rotations anymore. It's all about just fucking closing the Oblivion Gate. Like that's all it's about.
I'm extremely okay.
Oblivion Gate. God, I love that.
I'm extremely okay with not watching Sim May anymore. Like double Sim Wars, double May Wars, tiny Overwatch. Like, what is, my eyes are burning, my retinas are just gone. Trying to watch what the hell's going on the screen. I'm done with that meta. No more,
the best
please.
Overwatch metas have been when the game is punishing and you don't get to hide behind bullshit.
Gotcha, hyper.
Let's move on to talking about the map pool. I want to look at the map pool here and see how that affects the meta, because there have been some shifts. Every stage they change which maps are in the pool. You still have access to all of the control maps. You still have access to all of the assault maps as well, because with Paris and Horizon gone, there's only 3 in the game right now, right? Yeah, I think that's true. Anyway,
yeah.
I'm gonna be honest, my brain just turned off for a second. I just rebooted. I just had a soft reboot. Don't know what you said.
Hybrid and Escort maps have been shifted for the Countdown Cup. I can't remember what maps are in the pool. Jonathan wrote this.
I can tell you.
I was hoping he'd run us through. AVRL, please. You're the only expert here.
Havana, Route 66, Rialto, Blizzard World, Dumbani, Kings Row.
All right, let's start with the Escort maps. Havana, Rialto, and
Route.
R66. Those are
good Torb maps.
Good Torb maps?
Yeah,
reasonable Orisa maps as well.
The reasonable Orisa Torb maps, both Route and Havana, 100%.
I think all 3.
Rialto, and Rialto too. Those are all decent.
I've just been hit with a horrible thought. What would happen in this meta if you tried to run pirate ship comps? If you tried to run with this, if you don't have like echo for a large amount of burst damage on the ball engage, would you be able to defend a pirate ship better now that there's no Lucio?
I think Farah Hanzo with like a ball could ruin it.
Yeah, that really could ruin it.
No. Sombra plus one of those.
I think the problem,
Sombra can't really farm against that.
But I feel like Sombra, I think Sombra's hard because it's harder to farm, right? But I guess you could just get like a hack engage.
Yes, I'm not talking about EMPs necessarily, because what you want to do in these kind of situations on escorts is, okay, they pirate ship, you let them push into the open. Let's say it's Rialto. Maybe that's a bad example, but yeah, whatever. Havana, Rialto, they push into the open. You give them some space to work with. Sombra has a good flanking angle now. You play for one hack engage. Ball slams in after a hack onto something like the Bastion. You're good to go.
Yeah.
Or you just hack the BAP every time to deny the lamp, so there's no immortality field. So
yeah,
that's also another good option.
Yeah, was just a thought. Anytime Havana's in the pool and there's hero pools so that it messes with the meta a little bit, I think about the cheesiest shit and wonder whether it's going to be viable.
Also,
but
there's no Sigma for the secondary shield, which is really important for.
So
that's true.
It would be a pain in the ass to try and run that comp, actually. All right. When I see those escort maps, what I'm thinking is it's a pity that there's no Gibraltar. Because I think this could have been a really interesting meta to see whether Gibraltar would have gone in the direction of the ball poke comps or the Winston dive comps. I think that would have been a genuine, conversation that teams would have had about which was better. Because it's not like you were running Lucio Ana on Gibraltar if you were running the Winston anyway. You're running Winston Ana Brig. So I could see both of those situations being pretty viable. Whereas on Havana, Root, and Rialto, you are not running Winston comps here. It just feels like it's going to be ball central, unless you can get away with just bunkering on the payload. But I think this is just going to be ball all the way on the escort maps.
Josh, I think some teams are going to be forced to run Winston because they cannot pick up ball in time. My initial thought for NA teams in particular is that their pivot is going to have to go towards double bubble as one of the primary compositions, or maybe Winston Diva, just classic dive. There just might not be enough time for everyone to go towards ball. I think it would be a mistake for everyone to try and go towards ball. Like if you haven't already started that, you're better off trying to perfect and go towards a Winston comp than pivot too hard.
Okay, let's tap into some of the copium right here. Who would be the bad balls? Do we think? Okay, I'm just gonna run through the list. Okay, good
What-
ball or bad ball. We're not
Okay.
gonna spend 15 minutes here. Gator, do we think he can adjust the ball? Yes or no?
No idea.
I don't think.
I've
I
never
don't
seen
think he
Gator's
would be
ball.
as good. I don't think he's. I think we've seen bits and pieces and it wasn't amazing. We've seen bits and pieces and it wasn't amazing.
Okay,
So
have a
I
bit
would
more
personally
faith.
prefer. I think Rain, if they were gonna go dive, they would prefer a traditional dive.
Okay, I think Gator could possibly do it. Stand one, probably not.
Actually,
No?
I think Stan
No
One
idea.
has played ball.
He's Standal's played ball and
Standal.
Ryan,
He
right?
did play ball, and I think it actually looked. The problem with fucking NA ball players is we haven't had a ball meta in NA for so long that what I'm trying to pull from here is like two maps in like the entire year.
Also-
But I
Can we-
think it looked fairly decent.
Can we agree that there's a difference between like can they play ball and can they play like a really good ball? Like that's
Yeah,
even
of
not,
course.
not the same thing.
Exactly.
But
Okay,
for a team like Boston, I
fair
feel like they
enough,
might just
but,
go for
okay,
it.
I'm not going to grant you that, all of APAC's wrecking ball players are just like way better than North American
No, they're
ones.
not.
Like
They're not.
Faith
I
and
don't
Gaga.
think that either.
Okay, Faith, Gaga, and Among. I surrender. Okay, but do I want to see Yakpung play ball forever? For example?
Yeah, she has played a little ball. Yeah, that's like been Yakpung's secondary hero this entire season.
I mean, I
Okay,
think that
but-
Django has got a great ball. I know that Smurf.
It was what he
and-
was known for in Contenders
Yeah.
before. Like he's played a lot of John. He played a lot of ball.
Mag.
So
I trust Mag on the ball. He played
we
it with
seen,
Washington
did it?
Justice.
I mean, I remember
I
Mag
can't
specifically for
remember
his
him
Winston.
playing a lot of stuff.
I remember Mag's Winston far more than his ball.
Yeah,
Sure, but I
definitely
think
a lot more.
Mag could pick it up.
I think he definitely
Don,
could.
for
Like, I
Paris
trust
Eternal,
Mag and
he
Muse.
pick it up.
Dawn, I believe. Dawn, I can't. Paris Eternal. I'm on the Paris
Yeah.
Eternal Copium though. I'm on the
Yeah.
Paris Eternal Copium. But like, yeah, I actually think Paris would be good at ball.
I
So.
think Muse could pick it up.
Yes, I've seen Muse play it. Gladiators actually did play some of the ball comp the last week they played, and they looked relatively competent with it. They weren't amazing, but they looked competent.
Dark horse candidate, Mayhem.
No,
Shut the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up. Okay, we're not going to talk
Shut
about
up.
that. Even
Shut
Hardy,
up.
I have more faith in Hardy picking up the wrecking ball at not like a good
You
level.
have
not,
more
no,
faith in
no,
Hottie than to
no,
play
no,
OG
no,
OG
I
on
don't
dive
think they'll
tanks.
make the knockouts. Okay, I don't think they'll make the knockouts, but he can pick it up. You know, like I don't want to just play the Winston preferably.
I know that I'm leaning now towards Avast, despite the fact I just told him to shut up. But
Yeah, the school's good.
OG's best maps might have been on ball.
Yeah,
Because it
exactly. Like
doesn't-
they showed a lot of propensity. Their ball setup comps were actually not bad before. They just weren't able to finish the
But
kills. all
I
the time.
still don't
for
believe
what
in
it's
Mayhem,
worth,
though.
OG is ranked last on all the wrecking ball players in the IBM Watson Power rankings.
I don't
So-
give a shit.
Okay.
Are we
I
saying
don't
that?
care.
Are we just saying that Checkmate's not playing, or what?
I don't think they Checkmate. I think it would be a huge mistake if Checkmate were to play again. If he does play again, then the season's over. Like 100%.
The season's
Like, there's-
already over. It's
No,
done.
no, they could win all the
It's
matches.
done.
They could win all the matches.
It's done. Give it up.
But like, I'm just saying that like there could be some signs of life at least. But I don't think Checkmate. Like we saw Checkmate's stuff and it was not good.
Here's-
on non.
I think
Here's
the
another
point here
question.
So go on. I'm right.
Sorry, my other part to this, it's a two-pronged approach because you don't just think about the balls when it comes to North America. You have to also think about the Zenyatta play, in my opinion, too.
Yeah.
Because a lot of the North American players have just been hard-playing Batiste or hard-playing Ana or something like that, like the whole time. And some of these players in North America, I don't even know how good their Zenyatta looks when you're comparing it to the best players in the world, you know? Somebody like Violet, yeah, I think this meta is going to be fantastic for him to be able to get onto that role and play a ton of. Even if the shock main tanks are not the greatest balls in the world, they're still going to be able to perform that meta really well because they're going to be able to support Violet and have a lot of success with his Zen. For somebody like Iris on the Atlanta Reign, for example, I don't know really. He's mostly been playing BAP
Zen last
for a
year,
lot of
didn't
his
he?
career.
Atlanta even?
He played a small amount of Zen, yeah, and it
was
looked
mostly
competent.
BAP.
But I don't know how good. I don't know what his ceiling looks like because it's such a small sample size. You can't
Same with
take
Fielder
like a
for
few
Fielder.
matches and say you know how someone's going to play across a full meta, in my opinion. So there's big question marks in my. And Fielder
my
as
God.
well, right? Like
Yeah,
Fielder,
no
Iris.
one knows what Fielder's like how his Zen's gonna really be because we've primarily seen Ana and Bat,
Yeah.
right?
Or Repel.
And Moira. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, there is Repel too, but like that's true. But I mean, ideally, I would like them to just stick with Fielder, right? So
I can't believe I feel like my NA copium right now, and I'm not saying they're going to win the Countdown Cup. Okay, I think there will be some competent ball teams here with
Yes.
Senora players. Is what I'm saying. Okay, I'm not saying that they're going to win the entire thing, but I do think that there are some competent teams here if they commit to the Wrecking Ball strategy over time. That will actually see some decent Wrecking Ball play come out of the NA region. But I feel like I'm like. The competitive Overwatch subreddit, like all of them are also just like, well, APAC doesn't get much love. I feel like I'm peddling the equivalent of Avast Pokemon take right now. Like I feel so unpopular with my NA region copium right now that it's on par with Avast hate for Pokemon.
Well, you can still think NA is going to do well while also acknowledging that APAC is clearly going to be starting ahead, right? Like
even so,
why can't we do
it's
both?
Like beyond Shanghai, beyond Chengdu, there are probably some NA teams I'd probably prefer playing Wrecking Ball over like Hangzhou, Seoul, New York Excelsior to an extent. Like beyond those two teams, APAC can't get the entire APAC has incredible Wrecking Ball play because two teams are phenomenal at it.
Yeah, the other team that seems like they've played the most of it.
Sorry, AVRL. I'm like
the other team that seems like they played the most Wrecking Ball stuff was the Spark. Like they were hard forcing Wrecking Ball comps at the beginning of the Summer Showdown, back when very few people were playing it. It was before we'd seen Shanghai or Chengdu, I think, actually. So Spark was like the first team to start playing these Wrecking Ball comps, and I don't think their execution of it was that great. They were getting rolled over by Seoul, just speed boosting into their backline every time with a rush comp. And that's the kind of stuff that just didn't fly against Chengdu and Shanghai. So even though Spark have been playing a lot of it, I think there is a bit of a gap between the top two in APAC and the next when it comes to those ball comps.
Yeah, what I can say to that is I think interesting to bring a Hangzhou as well, because I think this is going to be a team that's going to lead the charge on more Winston gameplay than ball gameplay. I am a firm believer that we're not heading into a heavy ball meta, even though Chengdu and Shanghai are going to be leading the pack and they'll continue playing ball. This entire thing, I've people asking me in my chat all the time, it's like, oh yeah, can this team in NA play ball? Like, what are Dallas going to do and all this kind of stuff? I'm like, bro, ball, I don't think ball is going to be as predominant as possible. I even use the word overrated when it comes to ball compositions. And the reason I say that is not because I don't think ball compositions are really good. I think they probably are in terms of if you're going to master something, you're going to be absolute expert on something, the ball comps are going to be really fantastic for it. But a lot of teams I don't think are going to have time to catch up, and it might be better, especially with teams like Dallas where you have Fearless on the team, stick to the Winston. If you're Hangzhou and you have Gushu on the team, stick to the Winston, play to your strengths and play to what, is going to give you the best chance of winning rather than trying to catch up or copy a Chengdu or Shanghai. So there's going to be plenty of teams like Dallas and Hangzhou, in my opinion, that will try and lead the way in Winston instead, and that could still be a really strong meta choice.
See, I agree. I think you're coming from the right place, and I agree with you. To me, as a competitor, though, I feel like you're just accepting second place in that regard, because I don't think the Winston compositions, how good they are, will eventually beat some of these fantastic Wrecking Ball teams. Like for me right now, it's like Shanghai, Chengdu all the way. Like they're the two favorites to actually win the Countdown Cup. And if you decide to bring out Winston in week 1 and 2,
so do you want to put Fearless on ball then? Like it sounds
if they want to win the
Countdown
Cup, I think that is Dallas Fuel's best bet. If they want to win, if they want to make, if they even want to make it out of the knockouts, okay, sure, you can probably do that with Fearless on the Winston. But I don't think you're going to beat Shanghai. I don't think you're going to beat Chengdu playing the Winston. I'm sorry.
It's a discussion we always have every year in Overwatch is, should you try and play what you believe is perfect Overwatch for this meta, or should you try and play to your team's strengths? And in your everyday regular season matches, playing to the team's strengths does seem to have a lot of benefit. It is difficult to do in a match against the other best teams in the world. It's difficult to lean on your strengths. Having said that, though, that is Dallas Fuel's playstyle. That's been what they've done all year long. They haven't won the June Joust and the Summer Showdown, though.
Okay. Well, they're already qualified for the end of season playoffs. Sandbag. Learn how to play Wrecking Ball for the playoffs. You might need it.
I think you're overrating ball. I'm going to say it. And this is coming from me. I think you're seriously overrating ball. I think Winston's not as bad as you think it is compared to the ball.
I think it's very hard to get good Winston comps without a Lucio in the mix. I think getting that,
Really?
I think if you want to play aggressive like Dallas do, right? Because Dallas aren't a passive team, or rather, they're not a reactive team. They're not going to sit and try and peel. Like Shanghai, when they played against Chengdu, got a big value out of peeling. They weren't trying to like speed boost their Reaper into the backlines and destroy Chengdu. They were waiting for the engages and tearing them to pieces. That's what it felt like when I was watching the finals. Whereas Dallas they had the Genji. They were like, boom, straight into the back. If you don't have that factor to you, I don't know how you're going to be able to generate good value on a map like Route 66 or Havana with a Winston comp or something. I feel like there's maps in the pool where you're just forced to play Ball or Orisa comps, and Fearless doesn't play, or at least hasn't played, either of them.
I mean, what about May Melee? Like, Winston was one of the prevalent tanks in May Melee. Ball was being played somewhat, but not really. Chengdu was the only team really hard forcing the ball.
Yeah, Shanghai did in the finals, though.
I think a lot of a double bubble, and then we'll say Zarya starting to fall out. I'll give you that. But Ana play with Winston, nano boosting. That's still a very viable, powerful strategy to play around. Ana break backline. I don't think you need the Lucio for a Winston comp at all. The Lucio to me enables more of the Reaper than the Winston, if anything. I don't know. I've got a lot more hopium for Winston based compositions than most people probably.
No, I think that the Winston comps were good as well. They're finding good value with those Ana break backlines. I'm just concerned that they won't be able to counter the Ball comps. Like back in the May Melee, no one was really playing Ball, so no one had figured out that it was a good counter. I think now that people have figured out like how to work around the Winston comps, I think it's going to get progressively more difficult to execute with Winston. Having said that, though, I think Dallas could play the same shit they were running in the May Melee and win in North America. I just don't think they could win the Countdown Cup.
Yeah,
I don't think there's a single team in NA
changed.
that I would trust to beat Dallas with a Ball comp.
The meta's
Washington
changed though a
Justice.
little bit when we think about this moving forward in that Ball Winston idea, because the Ball kind of was clearly superior to the like Winston rush we'd seen previously, because teams were just heavily, like you said, very reliant on being one dimensional, and they would just get slammed and executed, right? But now the paradigm has like shifted. Like no one's like just playing Winston to just like only dive, right? Everyone has seen how other comps can work around Winston, and you're not just going balls to the wall like rush or just like balls to the wall dive, which you still theoretically could. So the mitigation of like that Winston comp buy balls changed a lot, because now you can't just slam the engage because no one's just waiting for a pure engage anymore. Now there's a lot more poke that's possible. So I'm also kind of in AVRL's camp again with the Winston probably could be still pretty good. I think
Okay.
I really do believe that Winston is not outclassed by Ball. It's more so you have to worry about the archetype of the comp. And that's why Ball was better than Dallas's comp earlier in the year, was because Dallas only had one play style, and it was rush aggressively with the Winston and the Reaper. And you just slam engage. You just stop the engage entirely with the slam, right? But now if you're not only trying to rush, there's a lot more ways to work around the Ball and like actually get value out of your Winston.
Yeah.
Okay.
I will say to end that I think a bad Wrecking Ball doesn't make up for like a good Winston, So if you're going to play bad Wrecking Ball, it's just not an auto win. It's not what I'm saying. But you can play Wrecking Ball really good. I think it's better than a really good Winston.
Okay. Well, let's move on to our next topic. Going into the Countdown Cup, there's many different narratives around the scene. So we wanted to pick out some of our favorites. I'm going to start with AVRL again here. What are you most looking forward to in the Countdown Cup in terms of narrative arc? If we think about the kind of chapters of the Overwatch League season so far, what story are you looking forward to either reaching its conclusion or some big decisive fork in the road for a team? What are the narratives you paying attention to here?
Bread Ball, number one.
Yes. Okay. I mean, let's spend a bit of time on that because I'm glad
you. Be real. Like, I say that as a joke, but Bread Ball is actually one of the. This is hard for me because as much as I'd like to see Vancouver and London take some wins, I would also love it if they took no wins until we get to the Bread Ball, for that narrative to survive. Because if one of them gets a win, well then the Bread Balls, there's no hype around it. It's done. No one cares about the Bread Ball if one of them has taken a game beforehand. So they both need to be on 0 match wins by the time we get to the final game of the season. That to me is the second most hype game before the grand finals is the Bread Bowl to me. So I'm hoping that narrative persists. But the real answer would be I would like to see if there is a possibility for maybe Philadelphia Fusion to bounce back. I think that's been a really interesting storyline throughout the entire season. They've entered the APAC region. They've had this entire team thing happen where they started with a full crew roster based on visas and COVID. Now they're slowly integrating players, and things have actually progressively gotten worse. Johnny's talked about this kind of honeymoon phase as well, which is ended up being, I think, pretty true. And now they've had a really weird kind of season where things are now, coming right down to the wire, right down to the line. I've no doubt that Philadelphia are probably within the top 5 teams to probably make a play-ins run. But that being said, they've been upset by, I don't even I can call it an upset anymore, a New York Excelsior like twice now in the season. I think they play again in the Countdown Cup one last time.
Philly have the hardest strength of schedule. Out of all of the teams, I think, in like the league, there was some graph about strength of schedule, and Philly's was through the roof.
One of the hardest.
Yeah.
Because they have Shanghai. They have Shanghai. They have Seoul.
Yeah. Shanghai, Spark, New York, Seoul.
I'll tell you what, that's what makes this narrative exciting, is because this is really the final stretch. This is really like, if they are ever to be considered a good team, you gotta beat the best, right? So one last shot for Philly, one last ride. I think that's a fun storyline.
Do they have? They should now have Shockwave available, right? Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
Oh, this is from Carrie from SI Not Found. So what you'll see here, these are the so these are the APAC teams. The previous one was the NA teams as well. And Fusion has easily the hardest strength of schedule in APAC, followed by NYXL, Charge. Interestingly, they are competing with NYXL to get into the play-ins as well, right? So those are the 2 teams that are at that kind of position. I think Fusion is 7-5 and XL is 5-7, something like that.
3, aren't they 3? I think they're 2 behind. I think Excelsior are 2 behind the 5 wins.
7 points to 5 points.
Yeah, I think it's 5-7. So I think if NYXL had a really easy strength of schedule, then maybe you're thinking, okay, they have a chance of overtaking, but they literally play against each other, and New York still have some hard opposition. So it would still be quite hard for New York to catch up, but that match could end up being so important for them.
Yeah.
That's definitely a big one. I know that you said you're looking forward to following the narrative, but where do you come down analytically on that? Like, what do you think the chances are of Fusion actually bouncing back?
I think Fusion, I'm just thinking about what they can run in this meta. I think Tracer is going to be one of the most important heroes in this meta. And I have said for the entire season that I don't think Fusion have a good Tracer player at all. I don't think any of their players, and people say, oh, what about Carpe? Carpe, maybe this is some recency bias, but when out of the 3 Tracer players they've shown, which is all 3 of the DPSs minus Shockwave, so E-Hero, Carpe, and Rascal, honestly, recently Carpe probably looked the worst to me on the eye test. I look at stats as well, and I think the stats would kind of prove that also. It just doesn't feel like any of their 3 players have kind of fit into that role properly. Maybe it could be Shockwave. I've wanted it to be E-Hero for a while, because I think the flex DPS player, the player that normally plays the Echo on the team, is now typically also your Tracer player. That's the current trend as far as pro Overwatch goes. And that's the one position that's been kind of weird and missing for the Philadelphia Fusion, because the Echo players don't play a phenomenal Tracer, and they're getting deft. Sombra is a bit of a weird place as well, because I didn't like any of the Sombra that I saw at the Philadelphia Fusion. So their DPS line, for what it's worth, to me, is currently the most lacking in that department, and they've just lost Ash. Can they make McCree work? Carpe is going to have to. If it's not for that, then I don't know what else they got in their tank, because the funny thing is New York's DPS line right now, to me, looks maybe even potentially stronger than Philadelphia's DPS line, which is such a weird thing to say on paper, because on paper, you'd find that hard to believe, but based on performances, it seems kind of true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, just to follow up on that quickly, I think New York Excelsior, like going into this next meta, they look kind of decent, did it not? Like in their win against Philadelphia Fusion, they played the ball against Hangzhou Spark, if I'm not incorrect, that like last week of qualifier games. Am I wrong here?
I can't remember.
They played Tracer Sombra, did they not? In their last qualifier games?
New York?
Hangzhou and Philly? I think they did. I think they look kind of decent. I remember watching that Hangzhou New York game, and I was kind of impressed by teams, even though they lost that one. So I think it could be a decent meta for New York.
I think the more weight you can put onto the DPS, and the less weight you have on the shoulders of the NYXL tank line, the better you're looking. Plus, if you're able to put Jonak onto Zen, you're getting the biggest value you can out of him possible. So it's theoretical. I feel like it's over for Philly. In the same way that I feel like the season is over for New York, they had an opportunity at the same way that I feel the season is over for the Mayhem. Obviously not as dramatic for Philly, because they're still hanging on. But it's it doesn't. None of the signs look good for the Fusion. It just feels like they got
Do you think they missed
shafted by so
plans?
many problems.
What do you mean it's over? You
I don't mean
plans,
miss play-ins, but I mean they'll just go out early in the play-ins. I would be extremely surprised if they made playoffs.
Well,
I
play-ins
think
gives
they'd
an
have to be
open meta, and I think that unlocks a lot more of their good points. So like they can go back towards stuff like Echo, which was a reasonable pick for them. I don't know. Maybe that's some Philly copium.
Yeah,
I
I don't know.
Like brawl again on Lucio. I don't know. Put Funny Astro back on Lucio for a brawl. Like that's all good for Philly.
I mean, it's
The
hard
thing-
to believe that with an open meta that Fusion would not do well, but
It's
I
hard
mean,
to believe
also
they've
we've
not
seen
done
the
well all
recent
season.
performances. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I think the Philly copium, honestly, is just like that the entire APAC region, besides Shanghai, is pretty unstable and unreliable. So if you can just hold on into play-ins and you find like a groove, there's a good chance you can beat teams like Hangzhou if they have a bad match, like they did versus New York in that knockout match, for example. Seoul Dynasty, even though they got some nice wins this season, we still are not convinced by their consistency and reliability. Chengdu, they'll probably be pretty sturdy. They'll make it by the play-ins for sure. They can rely on the wrecking ball, so they're set. But like there are some upset potential here for Philly if they get the right matchups in the right meta.
Well, Chengdu go to Arlington. I'm pretty certain because top 2 from APAC go.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
Chengdu have so many points and they have such an easy strength of schedule. They might as well book their tickets to Texas now. It's Shanghai and Chengdu go to Texas and then one last spot for everyone else.
It really does feel like it, right? I want to ask the same question to you, Avast. What narratives are you looking for in the Countdown Cup?
the biggest one, I mean, so AVRL's already done the most important one, which is Red Bull. That's the most important one. So
Yeah,
secondly,
yeah.
I'm actually super interested in seeing. I really want to see if Atlanta can prove themselves as like an actual top tier team. Because for me, like they've seemed really top tier and the metas have been good for them. But I'm just, there's still that question mark hanging over their head is like, where do they go as soon as we can't play Orisa or Reinhardt? Like now they're forced to play Winston and Ball pretty much. So where do they go? And because overall the results throughout the year have been they're a top tier team, but this meta is not to their tank line's liking or potentially their support line with Iris, right?
Yeah.
So I'm just interested to see like where does that put them, because it would seem like a ridiculous point in this where it's a ridiculous flaw in a team system where you can be extremely top tier and well, I mean, it's not a ridiculous flaw. It happens all the time, but it would just suck essentially with the Atlanta season they've had to be like, okay, we've done this well, and then we get the wrong meta and we just flop like towards the end, like really heavily, right? As soon as they'd still make playoffs, right?
Yeah.
So they'd be fine. They would still get an open meta past that, but it would just be unfortunate because I don't think there's any way that they
can't
be
fail
eliminated,
play-ins.
right?
Like it would be ridiculous. I'm not even sure it's mathematically possible. That
I don't
they
think
could
it's
drop out of play-ins.
I don't think it's mathematically possible for them to be eliminated essentially, even if they lost everything. So they should be fine no matter what. But would want them to show signs of life on a different meta.
Yeah.
Because if they don't show signs of life on a different meta, then to me, I don't see how you can really ever feel confident about the team in its current iteration for ever being a true contender, even if they remain good. Because you simply must be competent in multiple metas if you ever want to be a contender to a title.
People will hear your point there about like they're forced onto Winston, forced onto Ball, and they'll say, well, okay, Avast, but they did well in the June Joust. Like they were playing Winston comps there and they did well. But that to me is different because they were essentially playing like a rush comp, but with a Winston.
Yes.
It's like
it was
Atlanta,
the same principles.
Yeah, it's like Atlanta speed boost and go, which is what the Atlanta Reign loves to do. It's just that your comp has shifted, but your goal is somewhat the same, where you're trying to
I do think they should be able
together.
to perform well because I think showing when I've seen more and more from them, this seems like they developed a little bit more willing to play slow with like the Orisa. Like the ideas are there with their Orisa comps, right? Like they're able to execute slow paced comps. It's just developing that into when you're playing a Winston or a Ball. It's just, but will they? Will they? And that's my big question. And also, can Dynasty not make me sad? Did Dynasty not make me sad and make plans?
That's
like,
that was going to be one of mine.
They'll probably make plans, yeah.
Like I'm sure they'll be fine because overall I was looking at their schedule when I did my last power ranking and like they were like they've really only lost to like pretty good teams for the most part, honestly.
Yeah.
So like in retrospect of where we are with APAC, but I'm just worried they're gonna beef it, but really they should be fine. And those are my big storylines because I think Seoul, this is like the year that people should be most excited about Seoul because they've actually shown to be like pretty solid throughout the whole year and headed into a metas that could maybe be very good for them. Right.
See, here's where I'm slightly disagreeing with you, though, which is I understand your point that this is the year to be excited about Seoul, but to me, the excitement for the Seoul Dynasty always came from their peaks. And I have not seen the same peaks from Seoul this year. There hasn't been a meta that's gripped my heart and soul where I look at them and I'm like, fuck yeah, that's my Prophet and Gesture. Or even, that's my Marv 1, you know? Where they come in and they do incredible. I mean, Prophet has had some insane maps, but the team as a whole has not really like grabbed the one of the metas by the horns and looked phenomenal. And I don't think this one coming up, it looks that great for them either. They were playing quite a lot of Rush in the Countdown Cup, which, I mean, you can't play anymore. And then when they played Ball Comps towards the end of it, I wasn't that impressed with Marvel, so I don't know.
One thing, Ball have gone 3-1 every stage, by the way. They've consistently been above this.
They've been good.
They've only lost. The only teams they've lost to this entire season are Shanghai 3 times, understandable. Chengdu twice, pretty understandable. And Philadelphia once in the main melee when Philly went on their 4-0 streak. So I agree with Avast. Like they've had a phenomenal season as far as regular season goes. I just don't see that high. So maybe where I agree with you, Josh, is like the peaks of Seoul haven't been there because Shanghai have been so high up. They've been so untouchable that whenever I've been this guy that's always been like, oh yeah, APEC El Clasico, it's Shanghai versus Seoul again. And every time I see Shanghai versus Seoul get crushed. And they get diffed in every era. I'm like, dude, Fitz is like looking like the next best hit scan player. I think Lip is great, but Fitz is looking so good, and then Lips just demolishes and poos on Fitz. I'm like, wow, it's not even close. So it's rough, man. They just can't catch up.
It's more of watching, like, I think could they surpass Chengdu? You know, I don't necessarily think Seoul's going to win this. I mean, when you look at Dynasty's performance, there's just no way. Like, and also since Fuel's like in the equation and stuff, like there's just no way that Dynasty's more likely ever going to win this. Especially like you said, without the peaks. But can they at least be better than Chengdu, where I feel like they have developed a overall more competent system than Chengdu currently? And it's just Chengdu has players that are just legitimately so fucking good.
That's the crucial aspect, though, is it not? Because the top 2 from APAC book their spot to Dallas. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is that correct? So, and then the APAC teams are fighting over the 3rd spot, which would be like Chengdu being the heavy favorites. Because at the moment, on the standings, it's Shanghai and Seoul. So what, I guess the big narrative here is who qualifies in 2nd, is it not? Because I feel like Seoul Dynasty do actually have some chance of being upset maybe when it comes to, actually, I mean, fuck knows, but
it would be Chengdu that would be more likely to be the upset one.
Chengdu would be more likely to be upset. Dynasty have been consistent.
Dude, Chengdu's schedule is so easy compared to Seoul's.
But can they overtake them?
I'd be very surprised if Chengdu don't book their ticket to Texas. They're gone. They're number 2.
But do you think they can overtake them into the number 2 spot in the standings? How far behind are they compared to the Seoul Dynasty?
Equal points. They're equal points. They're both on 9. They're both on 9.
No. Shanghai's equal points, are they?
Yeah, Shanghai's on 18. Seoul and Chengdu are on 9.
Is that because of the...
you're right, because of league points. Yeah, league points.
Yeah, because of the league points from the Countdown Cup.
Yep.
Sorry, from the Summer Showdown.
Yep.
Interesting. Right. Yeah, so Chengdu are probably going into 2nd. And so, this consistency from the Seoul Dynasty would have to be enormous throughout the play-ins.
Because Chengdu have an easy schedule, they probably make Countdown Cup again. And if they win another game there, that's another free point.
Yeah.
So, I mean, Chengdu are heavily favored to be 2nd seed going to Texas.
Yeah. Good point.
Yep.
Jonathan, what are your favorite storylines that we haven't mentioned so far?
I'm going to go with the NA Copium straight off the bat. I'm sorry. I'm really not doing the APAC crowd any favors here. Dallas Fuel. I think Dallas Fuel will be really interesting because we've talked about the entire season. When are Dallas Fuel going to be exposed? When are they going to be found out because of their inability to, not have a proper hit scan player, etc.? They've been found out. In my opinion, Dallas Fuel have been found out. And they've been exposed by Shanghai and Chengdu to prove what they cannot really deal with. The question now is going to be, in this meta, without the Lucio as well, how are Dallas Fuel going to adapt? And I'm a big believer in psychology for some of these players. Like, how will they actually take some of these losses on the chin if they encounter losses? How is that going to affect their mood and their team chemistry? Not team chemistry as much, because obviously these guys know each other. They're really good friends with each other. But how is that going to affect their motivation going to the playoffs, which they're pretty much guaranteed to go into? But I could see Dallas Fuel going 2-2 in these qualifying matches. I honestly could, because they're going to struggle to adapt to this meta, in my opinion. They will probably have to learn how to adapt to this meta, that's going to mean that there's going to be some failures along the way. In my opinion, Dallas Fuel, their journey so far has been that they just came into the season just like guns a-blazing, just like going all out, playing super aggressive, catching all these teams off guard. And can you still do that? Yeah, you can probably still do that against some of these lower teams, some of the teams that cannot really adapt to Wrecking Ball themselves. But the question for me is, how will Dallas Fuel sort of like, not necessarily reinvent themselves, but how are they going to find that extra special 10% that will be required to beat some of these elite teams? Are they going to be able to do that in these qualifier matches especially? That's going to be very interesting to me, and see how Dallas Fuel do. And then also, just like a side note, looking forward to Gladiators and Washington in this stage, particularly because of the hero pools. Gladiators, this is like their last hurrah. Like, can you make it work? DPay is probably fired up to try and make this roster work. They've been playing dive pretty much all season. Okay, well, now you can play some Wrecking Ball dive perhaps and get some of your players going. This should be the meta for you. And Washington Justice as well. I was massively improved by their Wrecking Ball play towards the end of the Summer Showdown qualification matches. And I think they would have done better than Dallas Fuel in the playoffs. So those are the teams I'm keeping my eye on. I think it's going to be a really interesting stage.
Well, let's take a look now at our predictions for the Countdown Cup. So we want to predict the 4 teams that make it there. So we've already talked quite a lot, actually, about the APAC teams, because I feel like that's a bit of a slam dunk, to be honest. I mean, is anyone going outside of it being a repeat of Shanghai and Chengdu? Is anyone feeling bold with this one?
Washington Justice.
APAC.
Oh, APAC, sorry. I thought you meant finals. I thought you meant finals. I thought you meant the repeat of the finals. I'm sorry.
Okay,
I mean, Avast is thinking about Seoul, I think.
I was thinking about Seoul,
considering
but
it?
I'm not. I just can't. I can't in good conscience, right? When you see how Chengdu performed, like, you can't in good conscience put Seoul Dynasty above them. It's more so I proposed the storyline simply because they've been giving me salacious looks the whole season, you know. But like, I can't in good conscience put them above Chengdu.
Yeah. So Seoul have definitely got chances, but we'll see. I think it's difficult to make a call. From the North American side, though, it does seem a little more open because it's made a larger difference to the meta. Jonathan, I thought you were just having a bit of a senile moment when you shouted Washington Justice for an APAC team going through, but you actually meant that you thought there was a chance of the Justice making the finals of the Countdown Cup. What are you on?
The goop. I'm off the goop. I'm absolutely off the
He's been
goop.
paid in beer again.
Have you been paid in beer?
I haven't actually gone on the beer. I think Washington Justice, if I had to make, a dark horse prediction, I think that they're going to make it out of the top 2 in NA and could potentially, from there on beat Chengdu maybe. That's my off the goop dark horse prediction.
Why do you think this? Do you believe heavily in the Bebe Zenyatta? Do you believe very heavily in Assassin and Decay as like a Tracer Sombra frontline? Is this Mag?
Yes.
What is
Assassin, it? I think that Assassin and Decay is a fantastic DPS duo if they can play their comfort heroes. Fury, obviously, he looked amazing in the Summer Showdown. Probably the best Overwatch he's played all season. I don't think Mag Wrecking Ball is going to be too shabby. If they just commit to playing that composition, I think they're going to be fine. And I think as well that the backline of the Washington Justice, they're not world beaters by any means, but I think they've proven some of the anti-Washington Justice support line crowd wrong this season. They're not the best in the league, but there's only like a very respectable level, and I think they hold their own to an extent. So, Bebe and Closer, I don't think it's the end of the world, and I think they can rely on their DPS and tanks.
God Lord, you've got them going to the finals, but the best thing you said about their backline is it's not the end of the world.
Dark horse pick. I told you, okay? They're not my favorites, but I think they can do it.
They're losing the finals then.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I mean, I'm definitely there with you on Assassin and Decay. I thought Assassin and Decay looked like a stellar DPS duo. When it came specifically to the Sombra Tracer, I think the style that they had Assassin play was very good. It's this like front line, giving them a ton of resources, give them the Harmony Orb, give them the Brigitte pocket. Like, it's a similar way to how Lip plays, where he's going to be pocketed very heavily by his backline and trying to farm EMP, and he's very difficult to like push out of position. It gives you so much more opportunity to get good hacks and get farm. and Decay's a phenom. Where I'm not convinced though is again this like narrative about the North American Zens. I'm just not. I'm not sold yet on people like Bebe, Iris, Crimzo, Fielder. You know, like some of them have been good before, but like top tier, able to compete with the absolute best in the world and get you deep into a finals on such a pivotal hero. That's where the doubts start to creep in for me. That's where the doubts start to creep in.
But we'll prove you wrong down the line, okay?
All right.
Take your time, watch a couple of qualifier games, and then you can join in on the Washington Stonks, okay?
All right.
It's fine.
What do you think about the Washington Justice copium of Avast?
I don't know. I mean, I've been a notorious Justice doubter, and Justin. Fuck that guy. I don't know. Whoever you are, Justin. I don't know who Justin is. But I've been a notorious Justice doubter. I do think this is the first time they've shown any sort of promise, like in this past stage or so, of being like the team they were supposed to be. So the times are good. I do think they're really, really strong, and I could see them making one because we're predicting the top two that were coming out of NA, right? And we're pretty much auto giving one slot to Fuel still, correct? Are we still auto giving that slot to Fuel?
I'm not actually.
I think it's hard.
I'll give them one.
I think it's hard to not give it to Fuel. Still, in my personal opinion, it's hard to not give it to Fuel. They just haven't. I mean, they've literally gone to every tournament. They've done so well. Like it's just hard not to give it to them. And I don't think hit scan is suddenly going to be magically more impactful. This particular meta, right? Now that we're in a dive meta. So overall, I think Fuel still gets one spot. So we're arguing over the second spot. In my personal opinion.
Okay.
See Justice making the run. I could. This is the issue with like Atlanta, right? If I was like any other meta, I'd be like, yeah, Atlanta, based on how they've been playing. I don't know. What does Atlanta do in a meta where you not playing a rush sort of style with the dive? How do they perform? They've shown they can poke before. Who knows? Glad's a very solid choice. Their candidate. Shock, probably a good meta. I'm going full copium. I'm going
Outlaws.
It's about to happen.
Do it.
What?
Outlaws?
No. I've never
What?
predicted Outlaws for
I
anything.
thought you were going to say Outlaw.
I thought he was going to say Outlaws.
When have I ever predicted Outlaws for anything?
I don't know.
No. Never is the answer, and I still won't.
You're going for Paris, aren't you, you mad bastard?
I'm going for Paris Eternal.
Oh my God,
I'm going for Paris Eternal for the second spot for this one. Yep.
Dude, the horrible part about this is I could fucking see it. I think Naga is insane, and getting Khan on the Zen, if he has someone else in the backline who can just pilot him and tell him where to position and what decisions to make, the guy pops. And then Dan is also really good too.
I think
if they can get Naga
I also
on
think
Farah,
Vestola to me is like making a case for being just a better
Look at this
Dawn.
fucking European.
I mean, whoa, it evens out.
Changed
British
his
Hurricane
tune,
are still
hasn't he?
mega turbo poo. So like, let's calm down. The British Hurricane London Spitfire team is still
Okay, but London and Vancouver, they
Paris
negate each other. Okay, that's equal playing field. London and Vancouver, they cancel each other out. So
yeah, but London was the British Hurricane, the best contenders team since Eagle Gaming. So like, I mean, let's no. Paris is definitely the redeeming grace.
Okay. And so you think there's a good shot that Dallas and Paris are the teams to go to the Countdown Cup?
I could see it. See it. Yeah.
Okay. Avril, what are you thinking?
I'm doing mine's even worse. I'm like happy and sad Avast said that because I'm standing in solidarity with my fellow Overwatch members here whose names start with A and V, and I think I got Paris as well, but I have Paris going potentially 4-0. And that's not a joke either because there was that kind of meme that Vala put out. It's like, oh yeah, we 0-4, yeah, I know we were 1-3, and you know the score lines are going up and up and up.
1-3, 2-2, 3-1.
Basically, they're going up and up, and they could get the 4-0 now. If they beat Dallas, I seriously think they go 4-0, and that's the most pivotal game. It's the first game as well, and that one is a bit of a coin toss. I still feel good about Dallas because I think this meta is actually pretty good for them. The bans don't affect them in too many ways. They've the composition I see them going towards is Brig Anna, Diva Winston, Tracer Sombra, which I think all their members comfortable play anyway. People have been talking about Fire like it's going to be relevant. I don't think Fire is going to be that relevant, but if she is, Sparkle's your guy. So Dallas are good to go, I think, as far as comps are. And I personally don't think they need to play the ball. Paris are actually ahead in terms of getting a bit of ball action in there. Khan in the back line's great. Naga, like you said, has been really popping off as well. They have Sooner and Only God for Tracer options, which are really, really strong. So right now, Paris are looking good for me. The strength of schedule is so good for them as well.
Really?
That
Who
I
do
could
they
definitely
play?
see that
You're
they
a
got
little
Dallas
Matt
first.
replacement.
They got Boston after that, and then their last two games, London and Toronto.
Oh, holy shit. They actually do have a strong chance of going 4-0.
Like, their schedule's not
Christ.
bad.
4-0. Like I said to you, 4-0 is a
their
real
schedule's
possibility
not
here.
bad.
They could upset Dallas Fuel
That's
too.
good.
I mean,
Now,
well,
that's
they
some
definitely
progress.
could
100%.
because they would had close matches versus like Justice, right? When the meta was looking way better for Justice, and I think they're so flexible right now. I've been so impressed with Eternal's flexibility as a roster. So
They
my-
have been
my-
they have
The hot
been
take
good.
is Paris first seed. No shit. Paris first seed, my hot take. Second seed is hard for me. No, I'm serious. I think they got a brilliant schedule and they're already slightly ahead of the minute.
welcome, fellow Paris simp. Thank you for joining me.
You might have
It's not
turned
even,
me with the
this
strength
isn't
of
even like,
schedule.
oh, this isn't even me saying something like, oh, well, you know, if we go to the Dallas Future, like, oh yeah, they made every tournament, so they'll make another tournament. I don't buy into that. I have to still seriously look at their capabilities here. I'm still high on Dallas, but the other teams, I think, Shock are actually a bit of a sleeper pick here as well, because Shock have the capability to get a win over Dallas, maybe upset them. They can definitely play dive. The only area was I still don't know if I'm really confident in their Tracer department. Like Josh, you mentioned Violet and Zen. I think that's a good pick as well. Smurf back on Winston's a good pick. I don't think they need to play ball necessarily, but we'll have to see how the rest of them go. That's a potential sleeper pick. But Glad's Washington also very strong. That second seed for me is pretty tough, and I almost want to by default give it back to Dallas because I think they'll have a pretty good composition to run. But Paris is to me the only real team that I'm 100% confident on, and the second seed is still a bit washy.
I think Shock as well have a strong chance. I'm glad you mentioned them rebounding because I've actually been really impressed with Glister's Tracer. I think that he's high key underrated by the community as I think that was Eileen that ended up playing it in the past. So
I could totally be wrong here, but I think Glister, okay, he could be an okay tracer. We need to move on, by the way. But
okay.
just quickly, I think comparing Glister to some of the other tracers in the North American region, Dante, Decay, Kevster, I mean Edison for the Atlanta Rain, even for Paris Eternal. You know, I think that Glister, yeah, it could be okay on tracer, but I wouldn't consider him a favorite at all against some of the other tracers that are trying to make it through the knockouts. I'm sorry. There's some really good tracers in NA.
Yeah, there are some fantastic tracers in NA, but don't count the boy out. All right, top 5 matches of the week. Let's get some predictions in. A lot of these are North American focused because there's just crazy matches going down in week 1 for NA. Our first match of the week, Kurt, bring it up. What's happening here? It's the Houston Outlaws against the Washington Justice, and I am the sole person going for the Houston Outlaws. The other 3 have all gone for the Justice. I'm gonna make my case before I hear everybody else's. I do think Assassin and Decay are very good. I think that Dante and Happy should be a decent DPS line in this meta as well. Like, okay, Dante can't play the Sombra most of the time because that's Happy's job. But the reason that I'm going for Houston here is that I think getting Django onto the ball and having that be the focus of your playstyle could be very good for them. I think a lot of people were saying that Houston are going to get heavily nerfed, Orissa's not available or something like that, because it was a lot of what they were trying to play in the previous one. I think Django's best two picks are his Reinhardt and his Wrecking Ball, and any compositions that center around that are probably going to do pretty well. The coordination between Django and Dante, I think, can potentially be better than the coordination between Mag and Decay. I think Decay's an insane tracer, but I think in terms of what you're getting out of your main tank, Django I have more faith in than Mag in this matchup, and I think the Houston Outlaws have got a strong chance of being able to take this, despite how good the Justice should be.
I've said my piece on Washington.
Said your piece. AVRL, do you want to tear this one down brick by brick? Do you want to tear it?
I just think Washington are ahead as far as the early meta goes. I see this meta being heavily geared towards dive. Washington have the advantage there in terms of what they've already been playing. Their players are comfortable in all those picks. Assassin Decay has already been talked about plenty. I think we've all actually talked plenty about Justice to the point where, it wouldn't be hard to pred for them. So I was pretty curious about your Houston explanation, though, and I do see some good points there.
The other thing I didn't mention as
behind.
well is I think Crimzo is a good talent, and I've seen his Zen, and it's decent. I'm not saying that it's like, Violet Alarm level Zenyatta, but it's good. And I think it can outperform Bebe. And that is another crucial factor. Like, to me, the three keys to this meta are probably going to be Ball, Tracer, Zen on a lot of maps. And I think that Houston's got all three of those in a way that I have a bit more confidence in than the Justice. But, I mean, the Justice are probably still going to be excellent. I think this should be a good game, though. I'd be disappointed if one of these teams flops. Let's take a look at our next match of the week, then. Next one coming up. The Atlanta Reign against the LA Gladiators. So sad. This one, I feel, though, if you consider the whole year, we've all predicted the Gladiators. I think if you consider the year as a whole, this would almost be an upset pick, because the Gladiators have been underneath the Reign for the last two stages. The Reign has been the better team, right? So it's only been a slim margin. But what's the justification for all of us believing in the Gladiators here above the Reign?
I think we're all going to think meta, right? Is there anything other than just meta that is like, that's really it? Like, in any other time, I'd be predicting Atlanta Reign, right? But it's just meta. It's literally just meta. I don't know if I can believe in the Atlanta Reign currently comparatively to Glads this meta.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of information on Atlanta in terms of their flexibility to swap and pivot compositions and how far they can go on that right now. Whereas I think I'm pretty confident that Glads have and can and will continue to. Atlanta are going to be in an uncomfortable space in this meta, so that's where my pred goes towards Gladiators.
Yeah, I think we're all on the same page. I think this is a great opportunity, though, in this opening match for Gator and Iris particularly to prove everyone wrong. Like, people are heavily doubting, I think, especially those two, of like, okay, can Gator adjust and play the ball, play the Winston? And can Iris be very successful playing Zen against somebody like Shu or playing Anna or whatever the heck he has to play, rather than playing the BAP comps with the Rush or being able to play Moira with Lucio? So I think those are two big narratives for the Atlanta Reign that they can try and dismiss early on in the Countdown Cup. All right, next match. What's the next cracker we got on our hands, huh? It's the Dallas Fuel against the San Francisco Shock. Okay, and all three of you have gone with the Dallas Fuel here, and I've again gone for a different pick with the Shock.
So, okay, do you want to
go
go
on,
first?
Jonathan? No, go.
So, I mean, I understand that you're saying that Shock could be really good in this meta, which, it's yet to see.
Yeah.
I think this is going to be a case of Dallas Fuel, consistent, good team, and I think they'll turn up, in most cases. I just don't think Shock is going to be this fantastic team that I think you do. And so I think the consistency of Dallas Fuel over Shock trying to find their identity in this meta.
I think that Dallas are the ones that are going to be trying to find their identity in week one. I think if I'm the Dallas Fuel, I'm approaching this from the perspective of, we don't need to win regular season matches. We need to be good for the playoffs. So we need to practice different archetypes. We need to push ourselves outside of our comfort zone. If I'm in a position, coaching the Dallas Fuel, that's what I want this Countdown Cup to be. It's not about short-term success. It's about long-term success for the playoffs. So I would imagine that these opening weeks Like I said earlier in the episode, I think that Dallas could run Winston comps and maybe just win the whole of North America because they can lean into their style. But that is probably not going to win them the championship at the end of the year. That's not going to win them playoffs and grand finals. So to me, this is a necessary development point for them to branch out and try some other shit. Try playing, some Zen, some ball, some other stuff. Doesn't have to be all the time, but I would expect them to be dabbling in it. And I think that is going to introduce some short-term weakness to Dallas Fuel's game that I think the Shock are in position to be able to capitalize on. You got Violent on a very comfortable role. You got Glister on Tracer, Smurf on ball. I think this is good. Yeah, I think that this is similar to me to the Paris over Dallas reasoning, where it's like, I actually don't expect this to be premium Dallas coming straight out of the gates.
Yeah, I could see that. I could see Dallas still being on a bit of a copium, though. I could see them being like, yeah, we could probably, get away with this. We don't have to find our identity. We'll be fine. And then they get gobsmacked by Paris and Shock in week 1.
Didn't you say as well that you thought Dallas would go 2-2 in this stage?
They could. I'm just saying they could. And I could definitely see them going 2-2. Huh?
Who do they lose to if they don't lose to Shock? They lose to Paris and
probably Paris Eternal and Shock is probably who they lose to actually. But
but you're not actually predicting it.
Okay, can we move on? Like, okay, it could happen. It could happen.
Okay, all right. I'll stop needling
We're messing
you.
with chances here, not the definitives.
What's our next match of the week? Oh, the Atlanta Reign against the Houston Outlaws. Okay, and so everyone's gone for the Houston Outlaws, apart from the Reign sympathizer, which you wouldn't have believed it at the beginning of the season. Our preseason shows, you absolutely wouldn't have believed it, but it's Avast. He's gone for the Reign. Talk to me about this one as well, then, because you said that the Reign would end up losing against the Gladiators. So why do you believe that they're still going to be better than the Houston?
I just think that overall, I like their DPS line better than Houston. B, I think even though I don't know what Iris's Zen is going to come out in B, I think overall their support line I prefer much more. Masa's been having a year. Masa's been having a really good year. Iris has been playing very well. Like, we know we can play Zen. We're just not sure of it. Obviously, Crimzo is more proven on it, but I'm feeling really confident. The meta is also better for their off tanks. The Hawk Diva has been outperforming, is 100% going to outperform the Piggy Diva, I think.
Yeah, that's a good
though
point.
I do think. And then the only real question mark is just the main tanks, right? And you're still assuming Jongu's going to play when Dreamer was in playing ball before for this team.
If they do that, I'm going to lose my shit. If they're not playing Django
the
Piggy,
Houston Outlaws, that's what they'll do to you. So I just think that, like, because to me, otherwise, the signing of Dreamer was an entirely useless signing to begin with, right? If they're not going to play him now, like, why the fuck did they sign him at all? Especially when they brought him out and he played ball for them when Jongu was known to play ball.
Yeah, he played most of the Orisa for the Outlaws.
He played
right?
Orisa and ball. His first debut was on ball.
Yeah.
So when Jongu had been playing amazingly up to that point and was known for ball before, right? So logic might say, but who knows, right? They could have like shifted ever since then thing. Like, I don't know. So the real big question mark is just kind of like, where are we looking at with main tanks and like their direction of their team and how comfortable they are with the meta? But I feel more confident in the Reign's direction moving forward, even if it might not be exactly to their meta than I do the Outlaws currently. So that's how I'm feeling.
All right. Fair enough. Let us move on to our next match of the week. The Gladiators against the Justice. And we're split 2-2. So the Justice fans in the corner, Avast and Reinforce, have already spoken about why they believe in them. AVRL, I'm interested in your take on the Gladiators, because you thought, let me get this straight. You think the Gladiators are going to beat you think the Gladiators are going to beat the Reign, and then the Justice is going to beat, who was the other team? Who are the Justice playing again?
Atlanta?
Was it Atlanta? Does Atlanta play against both?
No,
Justice beat
Houston. They play Houston.
Justice beat Houston.
Justice beats Houston, but you think Gladiators are going to be better than the Washington Justice? Walk me through this one.
Yeah, I got Gladiators up there because I was first of all, there's a lot of this comes through from the fact that I was mega impressed with them in Summer Showdown. In fact, I think they could have easily have gone to Hawaii. I mean, if that came down, that map 5 on Nepal was really tight, and Gladiators, I don't know, I think Atlanta outpaced them and outplay them in the kind of a brawl mirror. Even though, I mean, if you want to dive into it really deeply, Gladiators did kind of win one of those maps as well. But basically, what I'm saying is, I was really impressed with the Gladiators' performance overall in Summer Showdown. I think they got a decent lead on the meta as well. I mean, so did Washington Dutch Justice, but I look at this lineup, I'm thinking skewed Brig. That's a tick for me. We're looking over towards Kevster, which is going to be really good in this meta. I got faith in Space Stever as well. Kevster Birdring is a good duo. It's a tough one. It's a bit of a coin flip. I like what Justice are doing in this meta as well, but to me, I just based off what I saw in Summer Showdown, I lean towards Gladiators. You could even say this is like a 60-40 kind of thing, or 55-45.
Right.
It's pretty close, but I just lean slightly heavier towards Gladiators.
Yeah, the more that we're talking through this as well, the more I think that I am underrating the Washington Justice. The big sticking point for me is always that backline. I have a lot more faith in Shu and Skewed, or Moth if they decide to run Moth. But Shu and Skewed, I think, is going to be a significantly better backline in this meta. But how much does that really matter compared to getting Assassin and Decay in the server on roles that they're going to pound in? I don't know. The more we're talking through this, the more I'm coming around to Jonathan's points about the Justice.
Honestly,
I could believe it.
One of the biggest arguments for the Gladiators actually winning this matchup is that they already play them, and we went to map 5 in the last Summer Showdown qualification game. And that is where, we interviewed the Gladiators on Backchat. You can go and watch that video here on the Plat Overwatch YouTube channel. But they actually talked about this, that they weren't really prepared for Assassin being pocketed as much with the Harmony Orb. And it really messed with the Gladiators' playstyle. And it took them a long time to figure out that adaptation. So now, if you're the Gladiators, you figured out how the Washington Justice like to play Assassin Sombra. So now you have like a leg up in this matchup, starting from scratch.
Yeah, that's a good point. A very good point. Okay, moving on to what I believe is our final match of the week, but I could be wrong because I can't count. It's the Hangzhou Spark against the Seoul Dynasty.
Oh, no, no!
The three of us little NA simps have gone for the Seoul Dynasty, valuing consistency. But AVRL has gone for the Hangzhou Spark. AVRL, talk to me about this one. Why are we wrong?
Let's clear one thing up really quickly, because you guys you brought my name up in the last episode as well, because you threw me under the bus for the whole Soul thing. So apparently there's just like this narrative that I'm like some massive Soul simp.
Okay.
Where does that even start, by the way? Is that because I rated Soul really highly in my preseason rankings? Maybe it is from there. But I've generally speaking, I've started to slow down on my Soul predictions. I think the best part of Soul has been the Prophets DPS line, and it goes pretty downhill from there. I have a lot more faith in. I look at Hangzhou Spark currently this season. I look at what they can bring to the table for this current meta. I think there's going to be some holes. I think IDK is still a bit weak, but MCD Zen has been really strong. I still trust Shy on like a Tracer pick, and McCree could still be possibly worked here. Gooseray Winston again. For some reason I'm a believer that I think that ball is maybe a little bit overrated. I think Winston can be great in this meta, and Gooseray is your number one Winston in the APAC region. Hangzhou Spark they've kind of fallen over at really unfortunate spots, but to me they're still a pretty good team. And Seoul, I don't know, man. I'm just starting to become much lower on Seoul stocks the deeper we get into the season. I'm not liking the team beyond the Prophets DPS tier. The rest of the team after that just really falls off.
I'm just saying, AVRL, when you post that Twitter video or Twitter screenshot, this is the frame right here of the three of us predicting Soul and you predicting Hangzhou Spark. that is your Twitter meme video.
Exactly.
Like, as it should be. I'm just saying. That just advice. Because I'm on the Soul Dynasty copium. And people know this. Listeners know this. I consistently put faith in the Soul Dynasty to produce some kind of magic. And all they do is just a shit fiesta of disappointment. The entire season. I'm the believer who's like, don't forget about Prophet. I am the guy who's like, playoff P. Don't forget about Soulcom elimination matches. And they've just been nowhere to be seen. So at this point, I don't even know why I bother. I have no faith whatsoever. I might just swap to Hangzhou. I don't even know.
Also, well, the reason that I don't have big faith in Hangzhou is that when I watch them play, there looks to be a massive disconnect between their front line and their back line. And in individual portions, they look relatively decent. But to get like their ability, when they just their pathing tends to get very disconnected. When they get their backline attacked, they're like going forwards even when their backline is under pressure, so it ends up getting mixed up. They look like a team with a lot of talent, but not ever the coordination to be able to actually function at the top level. It's frustrating to watch the Spark play. It's like watching early Washington Justice a little bit.
Can I add that Hangzhou Spark to me have been one of the few teams in the APAC region that have seriously challenged Shanghai, and even in Summer Showdown, I believe they were the only team, at least in the qualifying stage and in the knockouts, that actually took a map off of Shanghai and had other close encounters.
They beat them in
whereas
the
to
June
me-
Just qualifier with
Yeah, and
Sayako.
that's 3-0 there as well. But recency bias in Summer Showdown, I would say even them losing to Shanghai, that was the best performance of any APAC team versus Shanghai. Everyone else got deft. Beyond that as well, I mean, I don't know. I don't trust in either Marvel or Gesture right now. I don't think either. Even though if we go into something that's good for, I've been saying, it's good for Winston. Boucher's there. Gesture should be there too. But even then, like Gesture's still Gesture. Solso have their tank problems. The more I just don't. There's two good players in. The rest are just they don't do anything for me. And people say like, oh yeah, but what about Bernard and Hangzhou? Like he's not that great. I think he's underrated. I think he's actually okay. And right now I've got better faith in him than Tuyu. So Hangzhou just ticked way more boxes to me than Seoul do.
I'm coming around to the Hangzhou pick.
And Seoul have been destroyed by Shanghai, and Hangzhou haven't. They lost to Shanghai, but they didn't get destroyed. Seoul have been destroyed by Shanghai.
Fuck,
That's all fair. That's all fair points, but I'm sticking with Seoul. I'm just sticking with Seoul because like that's all fair points, but I'm sticking with Seoul also because I just feel like they have a more complete team system currently than Spark. And I think Spark are finishing, they do have the talent comparatively, and it seems like they click a lot more often than Dynasty against like top tier opponents. But I don't know. I'm ready. They just treat me so wrong, so right. So
Okay.
Dynasty,
I mean,
they can get the Pret again.
Yeah, that went off the rails. Absolutely. All right. It's time for our final segment, the most important segment every single week. It's Bren's Player of the Week, presented, of course, by T-Mobile.
Woo!
Woo! And someone actually went back and they looked through all of the different Bren's Player of the Weeks. Apparently, Jonathan is now tied for top with Zoe after having got it 3 times. I didn't realize you'd got it 3 times, otherwise I wouldn't have given you it last week.
And neither of us have gotten them.
No, that's true. So I probably should give it to Avast this week, but I'm not going to. I'm going to give it to a player this week, actually, not a member of the staff or anything like that. But it's been a dark week, obviously, so no one's particularly impressed. But the subreddit, this is a shout out to the community. This one, the subreddit has been picking up on different bits of like streams that are coming out of APAC, and it's always through the filter of like translation and shit like that. But Nisha's streams and the bits that have been coming from him have been fucking funny. And they've sent me some of the time. So Nisha is Bren's Player of the Week. Because
Fuck yeah.
I think not only because it's because the play has been fantastic whenever he's been fielded too, but just the snippets that people have pulled from his stream, and the fact also that it's just I don't know. He feels, at least from admittedly, this is all from translations in text, so I don't exactly know for sure, but seems very just confidently out as an esports player, which is in some scenarios an uncomfortable situation, especially when you're just in the middle of China as well, which is not the most accepting place for the LGBT community. That seems like a fucking just a Chad move. So yeah, this is sick. As a human being, the most important thing is to be happy. Just a fucking swell bloke.
I fucking love Nisha.
Just
I
a swell
actually
bloke.
did not know that. That's
Yeah.
pretty crazy, actually.
I mean, I think there's only been like 3-4 openly gay players that we've had in the league. I could be wrong with that, but I think the number is very small. And when you look at traditional sports, it's tiny. And that doesn't mean that there aren't people who are gay in them. They just don't come out publicly about it because there's often like a big community backlash, especially in traditional sports, which are so fucking backward with that kind of stuff. But yeah, here we go. Bren's Player of the Week, Nisha, because not only is he absolutely in terms of like the top 5 Brigs in the world, but and Mercy actually as well. But he's been making me laugh on a regular basis with the little snippets that people have got from the community. So there you go. That's our T-Mobile Bren's Player of the Week this week.
Love that.
Well
that's a
deserved.
good one. Yeah, that's a good one. That's right, because I saw the clip where Nisha was like, he was like playing and he was just like yeah, I played this hero or this style because I'm a bottom or whatever.
Yeah, he
It's
was
really
like,
funny.
bottoms
Oh,
are
yeah, I'm a
naturally good at
bottom, so I
Mercy.
played Mercy. Wow.
Dude, the fucking comments were sending me as well because there was another
That's so
guy in
funny.
the comments section and he said fuck, what did he say? He said he said that makes me so proud to be a top and a Mercy. I didn't have the genetics. I wasn't born for it. It's all been hard work.
That's really funny.
That is
actually.
that is a peak Reddit comment. That actually.
Yeah, that's Chad. That's
that'd
actually
be
Chad.
fucking
Yeah, that's a
going.
good player of the week. That's the best one we've had in a while.
Okay, so to wrap up this episode as well, episode 97, I believe, that was the number.
Yep.
Members. Any members this week, Mr. Curtis? There are. Oh, some large members as well. Starting at the top there with Chris Brown. Welcome to large member. Joshua
Welcome, Chris
Fike as
Brown.
well. Welcome to large member as well. Jacob,
Joshua.
Misha, Lewis, Norell, and Nate.
I think didn't we get Mission Lewis, or is that?
I don't
or
think
is
so.
this new- Is this all new?
Everything on screen is all new.
That's all new.
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
I do
okay.
not remember reading that person's name. That's
Okay.
a quite distinctive name. I think I'd recall that one. Welcome to member though. Derpy Tricks. Welcome to large member.
Welcome,
tier
large
2.
member.
Jinho Kang. Thank you and welcome to member. And Brennan Hagen, which is not our Brennan, but
No.
still spells it Brennan's way, right? Wait.
Close to
Brennan's-
the Haagen-Dazs family of ice cream tiers, you know.
And subscribe to our YouTube as well. And they beat Sentinels.
And they beat Sentinels.
Things are exploding. Things are exploding in the production room. Thank you. Appreciate it. We do appreciate the support as well. We've got the talent takedown draft that we just posted. If you didn't check it out, we just had this Overwatch 2 episode with Seagull that I'm going to plug once more because I think that was sick. If you're
really
interested
was.
in hearing Seagull's thoughts on Overwatch 2 and if you have any more guest suggestions as well. And AVRL, thank you for coming along to this podcast as well. Thanks for gracing us. I know it's incredibly early in the morning for you, so appreciate you coming along and giving us your little droplets of wisdom.
Eventually, someone had to talk about APAC, so we had to get Avril on.
Yeah.
You know.
Unfortunately, it was
The
a week
first
when
and
none
last
of the
time we
APAC
talked
teams
about
played,
APAC.
so there wasn't even that much to talk about. But we'll get you on another time as well, I'm sure.
I look forward to it.
Okay, well that wraps it for episode 97. We'll see you again next week, and we'll actually have some games to go through that time, so it'll be even longer. See you then.